G'day, folks. AoS Coach here, and we are not previewing anything. Actually, we're going to talk meta, and this is the second episode. We got through it. We got through it. We got one episode down. I think we've definitely taken on some feedback that we will definitely not. I say this, but like, you know us, we'll just get into the weeds, probably because we're so passionate
Yeah.
about Warhammer. We love Age of Sigmar. It is the meta report. We're going to go through, I guess, the current state of competitive match play, focusing on, I guess, 2-day events primarily, mostly because not that 1-day events aren't important. They certainly do have their place, but definitely much more about a greater depth of craziness like Elias's cats in the
Yes.
background. No, we love the cats, love the dogs. Welcome back. How's it been going?
It's been going pretty great. It's been a pretty exciting last month. I've been seeing a lot of cool stuff happening. I'm having a really fun stuff in my personal life, and then also really excited for some tournaments coming up. So it's been looking good for me. How about for you? How my kitties? How's it been for you lately?
I have been good. I've been in the weeds doing stuff that will be announced soon, but also been really hitting the circuit with my dock. I feel like I want to run dock, so I'll be coming over in August to play at Old Town, and I'm
Hell
trying to
yeah.
settle on what I run, and I always bring Gargants because they're the easiest army to transport. So I'm like, right, I want to take something different. I don't know if I can get cities up in time, so I've been playing with Doc. So I've been buying like a whole bunch of like blood hags, trying to push back on the meta. Everyone in Discord's like, run snakes, run snakes. I don't want to run all the snakes. I want to run girls. I want to just like my murder strippers go out, be free. So I've been playing Doc, and I got a list due today, and then I got another list due soon. So I got a couple of 2 days coming up.
Yeah, I'm in like multiple TTS tournaments right now, and I have starting in like 2 weeks. I have a series of events, and I'm probably playing Iron Jaws for most of them because I'm really enjoying Iron Jaws. But there's some other armies that are I keep touching on that I might swap to last second. So possibly Dark
It's
Oath,
I'm just
maybe Chorfs if I get stuff painted, but it's taking me a while to paint them.
I'm a little worried there's like a Scourge of Gairan coming for like the new season, and then I'll be like some cool rules will come out for like Suns. I'll be like, oh, here goes Suns again. Or Hellsmiths will get something cool, like God damn it, now I'm running all of the anointeds or bloody
Yeah,
I
you're
don't know,
like you have this whole
something.
plan in your head, and then I mean, at bare minimum, the new season's going to change the meta like crazy for sure. Like just from the rules changing. So like, who knows what's going to happen? I am relentlessly scheming on new lists. I can't stick to one to save my life. So I'll definitely be swapping to, like every single tournament, play something different. So
My
it'll be
greatest fear is getting cities and seeing the new cities of Ash and going, I'm going to run cities and I'm going to go build all of these new cities and I'm going to do it in like a month and a half and have no reps. Or I'm just going to run all the cog forts and basically play Suns with cog forts.
yeah, Cog Sons. Uh, I've
Don't,
done that for
don't.
myself.
I'm segueing before you get me into a rabbit hole. So this is going to be focusing on the last 60 days. We are using the data set from AoS events. Thank you for that data. And it's primarily focused on the last 60 days on 5+ game events. Why 5+, you might ask? We've also got the GW Opens. We actually just had Maastricht, the first one in Europe. So we had an 8-0 come out of that one as well. So they're an 8-game tournament. So we don't disclude them. But certainly, as you know, RTTs are wild.
Yeah,
Like 1-day events, you get a little bunny run, and a
all of a
really good
sudden.
faction can look bad because it's like you're 16 players, it's a snake pit, and like just really good players. At the same time, you can get a bunny run of like this most bizarre list. It just gets really good matchups.
Yeah, and I never bring like a for sure good list to an RTT. I'm always just trying some crazy stuff. I'm just as likely to go 0-3 as 3-0. Like, so it's not good data. It's good testing, not good data.
Yeah, it is actually a good test. I rarely bring a GT list until like the week before a GT. I'm like, right, I
Yeah.
got that final rep. But I maybe like to set the scene a little bit. I guess we've had a few things that have come in. So we obviously last episode we talked about Battlescroll and how there were points changes. There was a bunch of adjustments and things like that. So the things that kind of influenced the meta this I guess last 30 days was we had 2 new battle tomes. We had Daughters of Cain and Sylvaneth. We've also had Skaven get their update through the City of Ash with the Gutter Runners, Night Runners, and our new Death Master. I've forgotten the name of the Death Master. Death
I
Master.
forgot his name too,
Stop.
which is funny because I love Eshin, but I forgot his name. So I keep wanting to say Snicketch because that was like my favorite character in Warhammer Fantasy, but it's not him. It's definitely an homage to him though.
From your observation, and I think this is a loaded question, has this influenced the meta at all?
Yeah, heavily. Like if you're paying any attention, absolutely. The Eshin stuff, not so much. I haven't seen anyone play it yet. I mean, there's definitely like a painting meta. Like, you gotta build your stuff and paint it first. But the Daughters of Cain and Sylvaneth have been running rampant through the meta. They're both extremely strong armies with really, really interesting, unique rules that you have to like account for. So it's like not just that they're strong, they're also armies that play differently from how many armies do play. So people are having to learn and adjust and change how they're playing pretty dramatically. And so it's also had like rippling effects throughout the game. I think these new armies, as well as the ones that came right before it. So like there's been widespread changes, not just from a balance perspective, not just strong armies entering, but like the context of the game has changed, in my opinion.
No, you're 100% correct. And any new battle tome will skew the meta in some way. So when we get to eventually the win rates, it'll be interesting, like not to freak out right now. And like the first thing we always want to do is like nerf the army, nerf the army. But to your point as well, when we actually start seeing the influence of like Daughters of Cain, Sylvaneth, even like Lumineth and Disciples of Tzeentch with the battle tomes, I know BR to a degree. Before that, what you start seeing is that they create new problems in the meta, and most lists that haven't caught up just yet don't have the answers. Either you haven't got the reps and experience in how to stop Daughters of Cain from earning their blood rights. You don't understand how Sylvaneth, they're going to get a couple of cheeky wins early on, but then as things kind of settle, you'll start to see is something completely overpowered, or was it just a learning experience? And it was really interesting, actually, like while we're on the top of this, is like these were the major events that influenced the meta in the last 30 days. And you start looking at like some of the 5-0s. We had 4 Lumineth Realm-Lords get 5-0s. We had 2 Daughters of Cain get 5-0s, and we had 2 Sylvaneth. Well, technically one was an 8-0, but we had a 5-0 and an 8-0. So we're starting to see this. I don't know if it's a creep per se, and I know you and I are talking about this on a group chat recently where you've got all these new battle tomes doing well. And is it that new battle tomes are broken and just really overpowered? Or is part of it some of the older battle tomes, our Iron Jaws, our Cruel Boys, our Stormcast, our Skaven, everything, even slaves actually a lot, because they were so close to the index, like, do they always need a second battle tome to get them back up to speed? Because like the difference between Slaves to Darkness versus what's dropping in the last 3 months is chalk and cheese.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent conversation. We were kind of talking about this, and like I do think yes, the new armies are powerful, but there's always a powerhouse in every meta, and like that's fine. Like you're always gonna have something that's stronger than the rest and something that's weaker than the rest. But these latest ones have been playing basically almost like a different game than the ones that were basically reworks of the indexes, which were playing it safe for obvious reasons. They didn't want to do anything too crazy in the brand new edition with a ton of change of rules, but now they're suffering for it. And I do think like there's a lot of armies that currently can't really be fixed with points. Like if you push them too hard on points, they become unfun for both players, but you can't, like, you feel like you're not playing the same game. And I do think and as we'll see, there's some statistics which are pretty jarring in certain spots, but it's less so than the raw win rates is the play experience. And I think that like these older armies could really do with some like maybe not new battle tome, but some like heavy errataing to like change some rules, improve some rules, remove some limitations that they have. They were like playing it a little bit safe on in the early parts, and they can really take those safety wheels off and let them run a little bit more free, so the play experience is better between these new tomes, which I think these tomes are super fun for the player and for the opponent, except for when your army isn't playing the same game, and they can fix a lot of that with some erratas and stuff.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because when Scourge of Gairan hit the scene last year, I went to Doc because I love my witch elves, and I was like, great, these all these new rules for witch elves, and I could run Sisters of Slaughter, Witch Elves Cauldron, love the new Bloodrack Shrine. And it was a very simple format, like good units. I had my blood tie table where I could count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what was going to happen. And I push things forward. I do my things. And, I had some very good success. Coming back to it, I took a break with Helsmiths and Sons, mostly Helsmiths. Then I came back to Doc, and even the experience of Doc now, just how different it is, not just with the Blood Hags and the Shrine piece and some of the new things, but just fundamentally the complexity of Doc, Sylvaneth, OBR. I know people were upset with me when I did the preview video for OBR, and they were a big castle and they were simple in their nature and they're way more complex. They're less of a castle bubble now. They've started getting some really good results. I think they've had 2, if not 3 5-0s in the last, say, 30 to 60 days. So they've been doing relatively well, but the complexity of the battle tomes kind of since Nurgle is so different to like slaves who just got a banner. They just got a banner. It was like index plus banner. You're like,
Yeah, one of the things I've been talking about is that like I think slaves, they should remove some of those limitations to give them really cool plays to keep up. Like Tzeentch, you can only do teleport one of your Tzeentch units each turn. You never really want to have more than one with Tzeentch mark, but like it'd be pretty fair to have several of these. They're outside of 9, like there's limitations. They're kind of a clunky army. Like giving them Slaanesh mark working during both players' turns so they can like countercharge, have cool little interplay. Maybe making it so that like the guy who's trying to send a Demon Hood, when he dies, he passes off like how Doc do. And you're both now you're both doing like you have like these distinct things you're doing, and you're more interplay. So I like the way new armies are, and I hope that they can take some of those back ones and raise them up in that way. Hopefully, but we'll see.
well, it's interesting, right? Because like when you start looking at the top 5 armies right now, and I will get to the overview, for every faction, but you can start to see Daughters of Cain brand new, Disciples of Tzeentch brand new. Flesh Eater Courts is holding its ground, which I think is really interesting, especially because they got some really aggressive points updates in the battle scroll. So I'll be curious to see what happens to them if they start dropping a little bit. But they're a relatively solid book. I don't recall too many bad experiences coming out of Flesh Eater Courts, and they're in a relatively healthy win rate there. Lumineth, I mean, I can come down slightly, but I could come down slightly, like 45 to 55 is where you roughly want your armies to be, so it's slightly above.
Slightly above.
Ogres, though.
Ogres is a surprising one when you look at this picture. It's not surprising because of the points. It's surprising because it's the only one of these that's like old style. Like Flesh Eater Court's like the first of the books that came out that was like, this has some really intense stuff. Like some really like rules that kind of break the mold. So it makes sense it's up here with these ones. It's also just good math and stuff. Ogres is the only one of these that is not like that. Ogres is kind of the simplest army there is. It's just sometimes just shoving a rock. This one's doing some crazy dance. You're like, smash. It sometimes just works if your math is good enough. And Ogre's math is quite good. They are a bit of a menace right now for sure.
And they got points discounts. Like I remember playing one of my friends who went 5-0 at CanCon and won actually Australia's largest event with Ogres. He won it, and obviously like Iron Guts and Gluttons and a cannon and things like that. And I think in 3 months he gained an extra 100 points to spend. Like his list dropped 100. He's like, why?
And they were already in a good spot.
Yeah.
I think there's also some other stuff to point out here. Daughters of Cain's win rate, this is the last 60 days post Battlescroll, which is like 45 days. It's actually higher than this. But on the other hand, Lumineth, I think, is like a slightly lower recently. So people have learned how to play against it. It's like a 54 recently. So some of these armies, like you were saying earlier, are kind of people are learning to play against them. Some of them, not so much. Like Tzeentch hasn't really dropped at any point. And sometimes learning can only do so much. Like you can't really counterplay. So Lumineth, you're seeing people learn how to counterplay, and their rules are like their win rate keeps dropping bit by bit by bit. And they still need a little bit of tune down in certain specific aspects, but they also need some other tune-ups. But like they're approaching a fairer point. Flesh Eater Courts went from like 70 some odds to 56, and that's an improvement. The win rate is still really high. I did kind of predict that would be the case. Like I thought they'd be right around a 55-ish, but they went appropriately nerfed. Maybe some small tweaks here and there they still need, but like I'm not super like Flesh Eater Courts. I'm kind of okay with its win rate approximately.
It was it was a particular build though in Flesh Eater Courts, let's be honest. Like it was one particular build with all the dragons and things. And what's really interesting is like when you talk about like win rates and popularity, Daughters of Cain have just completely shot up. I think I worked out that it's about 15% increase. Like the win rate was relatively low before the new battle tome because they had a really good win rate with Scourge of Ghyran. Then by the time December came along, they got nerfed to the ground where like things were just getting like nerfed. Then all of a sudden they've just got the hotness again. So it's just been this absolute kind of wave.
Yeah. And then you see some other ones that have really been shooting up recently, like in popularity. Like Lumineth was not popular at all. It was because people didn't like the way it played, and now people love the way it plays. And balance aside, people are loving it. That's a good thing. Like going to 7.3% for an army I would consider somewhat niche, like Lumineth, is a good sign that people are really enjoying it. Because people say, oh, like when it's strong, everyone plays it, but that's not necessarily true. It's a good sign that something's fun and strong when its high win rate is that high. So like Maggotkin and Lumineth are both up there. It means people like it. But there's other armies that even when they're doing well, like Flesh Eater Course is 4.2%, and it's up there, right? Same with Ogres. So it's a good sign that things are going like that. And just looking back at kind of the faction win rates where they were before the Battlescroll versus now, like yes, there's a decently wide spread, but there's nothing over 60 and there's nothing under 40. And most of it's in the central range. So I'd say we're in a pretty good spot right now. Not perfect. It's never perfect, but it's significantly better than it was a month ago.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like this time next month, if Daughters of Cain retain that 60% win rate, I think you're going to start to see expected nerfs likely by June. That
Yeah.
you might start to see that people start working out, for example, because the blood right mechanic, for example, I've been loving it. You can play around it. Like if you just don't feed certain people or you avoid certain fights near a place of power, then you're not feeding the mechanic, which means Morathi likely doesn't come back until turn 4. And by then, you've really neutered her power. So, like, there's all these little
Yeah.
flow-on effects that, like, when you learn it, I expect the win rate to drop slightly. It's still a very good book. I'm not saying that it's an average book. It's still a good book. It's very complex, very like 4D chess book, but you'll learn to play around it, and I think it'll come down a little.
Sometimes there's armies that are really strong and there's not a lot you can do about it. Like let's say someone when KO was really, really strong, you're just like, I mean, I'm gonna tell you, man, like but like armies like Sylvaneth when they're strong, there's so much counterplay. Lumineth and Doc, Doc needs, in my opinion, some nerfs, but the vast majority of the army, there's only 3 war scrolls that I think need any changes at all, like points wise or otherwise. And one of them is rule wise, and 2 of them are points wise, and it's really not that bad. There's a lot of counterplay. I know I messed up terribly my first 2 games against Doc because they didn't really understand the way that the blood rights are working. And then I kind of learned it. I'm like, okay, now I'm doing much better. Like it's a lot easier once you understand how it works fully. So some armies, when like you'll see the win rate will be like bam, and it'll go woo as people figure out, okay, here's how I can fight this.
Yeah, it's really interesting as well. Like I'm looking at some of the other factions, so this is not a doc fest. And by the way, as a doc player, don't touch my army. Don't touch my army till Old Town throw it out. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And actually, it's why I'm playing my elves. I like the elves. Leave my blood hags. You can go down in points. Like you're a little overcosted. I think the elven side's a little overcosted in my opinion. Maybe the snake side is a little undercosted.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Morathi has one broken rule, but I'll get to that when we get to Doc. I'll talk about it a little bit more.
Leave her alone. But the other ones, like I find really interesting, and probably not enough talk about this, is Seraphon sitting there at a 41% win rate, which is horrendous. I don't recall, like, very rarely do you see an army with such a low win rate. Gloomspite Gitz secondly, like not far behind, which is really interesting because they've got a tome. They got a tome, and I remember when I got my battle tome, I thought I really thought it missed the mark. Like I have not touched my Gitz in such a long time. We had a spike at World Championship where we saw Chariot spam and Boingrop Bounders spam. That got nerfed to the ground in the December Battlescroll. and they're struggling. They're struggling hard.
They are.
You know,
Yeah, they're in a really rough spot. There's a lot of armies that are in a rough spot. There's a couple of things that I personally want to highlight. One of which is the popularity of Idoneth Deepkin, who have been at a very positive win rate for a while. Now they're kind of not, but they were for a long time. And this popularity was lower when the win rate was higher. And that highlights some issues that the army's having. That if you ask any Idoneth player, like, yeah, our win rate's 55%, but like it's awful to play. And then you have armies like Gitz, where people just don't get to have their like gameplay fantasy. Like you don't get to do what you want to do with Gitz. And they had a really cool rules, but they're cool in an abusive way. And they need to fix those. But unfortunately, that book did just kind of miss the mark. And there's still some things that really needed, like they did some points changes, but they weren't enough and not in the right places. And so like nothing really became any better. Like 10 points on the catapult didn't change anything. And they're still fighting these new armies that are super strong, and they didn't really gain anything. And they're one of those armies that needs those rule changes we were talking about earlier, more so than they need points changes. Although some things do need points, but yeah, it's interesting to see. Cool, interesting. What surprises me though is that Seraphon's in the middle of popularity when I don't know anybody who's enjoying playing Seraphon, and Seraphon's very weak, and everyone seems frustrated by it, and yet its popularity is pretty high. So it's kind of interesting, right?
the last Seraphon that I've really seen played is the cav spam, like people running I've forgotten the
Agagons or the skinks.
No, the skinks, like just
Skinks are
waves
pretty
of
strong.
skinks with like pterodons and things like that. But yeah, they've really fallen off popularity. And even like if you look at Skaven's win rate's relatively low at the 43%, yet one of the higher represented at 55. And it's going to be really interesting. And I think maybe like without spending too much more time on this one, I will say that you got to remind yourself we are in the cusp of a new General's Handbook. So June, July is usually when we see a drop.
Yeah.
We have some battle tomes that are being propped up right now by the Scourge of Gairan.
Yeah.
Equally, if there is a second Scourge of Gairan or some type of version of it, it'll be really interesting to see what they prop up. And finally, and I'll get your prediction now, we have cities impending. Now, when? Is it going to be with the GHB, before the GHB, after the GHB? I know people are frustratingly still waiting for the rules for the Cities of Ash. We know we've got the Gallants and the War Priest and is it Jovan? There was a few things in that box that on the Grenadiers as well. So like people are waiting for those rules. I haven't seen them yet. And I'll be fascinated to see where cities kinds of lands in a power level, because from a popularity point of view, they're relatively low there. Are people just sitting on armies and waiting to bring it out?
I think they are, because like cities is really, really cool, but it's been in like not the greatest gameplay spot for all of 4th edition. But people love the idea of cities. Like I do, at least. Like I love they're super cool, but their rules have not been there. So when they get a book, like they're also one of those armies that like has so much room for cool rules that I think it'll be dope. And like they also, this GHB has not been friendly to the way that cities likes to play. So there's also a huge chance that new book comes out in a new setting that might be better for them. And that comes at the same time you might see a giant spike in cities, because they're the empire of this game. You know what I mean? Like they're the like relatable people, and they're really cool design. And I at very least I know like everyone's hyped about the COG Fort. So.
Oh, yeah. And
I know I'm getting one for sure. I'm definitely going to customize the hell out of it too.
Well, there's the other part as well. And I will get to the next slide, I swear. But what does COG Forts do for everybody? So who is going to get really good benefits from COG Forts? And we know that there's Army of Renown COG Forts coming. They've said most armies are going to be getting it. So we don't know exactly who's going to get it and what they're going to be and what the variants are going to be. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. Eliza's all under control, probably talking to a cat. I'd talk to a cat as well. So carrying...
My dad came in for a second.
It's all good. Hello. Hi, Dad. It's all good. No. But more just like what is the impact of COG Forts, and what is it going to do? Like, is it going to be a solution to Slaves to Darkness? I know we had the Pokeball with, our Chosen. If it has transport capacity, is that going to be an alternative version to the Pokeball? is it going to be
yeah.
able to? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many
I
questions that
have some little theory. I don't even know what it does. But I know based like core like descriptions. But I just from the idea of the unit, if it's anywhere decent and pointed decently, I could think of several armies off the top of my head that want something like that. Like Gitz and Seraphon both would love to have a tool like that unit. Ironjaw's defensive armies, like those infantry armies, really have always like some armies like just don't have a tool like that, and I think it'll shake up some armies that have kind of struggled. Fire Slayers, it's another one I'm thinking of. Like those armies that have been lately struggling. If the war scrolls are pretty decent and the points are decent, like that tool in their army really bumps them up a lot. So I think it'll be really exciting.
Stay tuned. We'll see where it lands. I'm not going to spend much time on this. This is the distribution.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about the last part, but I did highlight that, there's been 4 in the last 30 days. There's been 4 Lumineth Realm-Lords, 2 Dock, 2 Sylvaneth. I can also see Ossiarch Bonereapers, Stormcast Eternals, Hedonites of Slaanesh went 5-0, Kharadron Overlords 5-0. Actually, 2 Hedonites of Slaanesh, Jared Brown and
that one's surprising.
Adam Heinrichs. We had Flesh Eater Courts, as I said. Daniel Patterson, Slaves to Darkness at Taxman Come 3 went 5-0 with Slaves. So super interesting. So again, even though like we poo-pooed on Slaves, you can still get the job done.
You certainly can. If you're a real good player, you can win with anything. You know what I mean? Like, and they're not terrible. Like they're just at a disadvantage. I have one single thing I want to say about that previous slide before we move on.
All right.
And that is just that. Keep it with a grain of salt. Some of these new books do feel really strong, but they're also the sort of books that do attract people who are very, very skilled at the game. So sometimes you'll see 5-0s, but it's because like these players who love these complex, mechanically oriented armies that are really, really good at the game jump to them because like that is what I like to do. So take it with a little bit of grain of salt. They may not be quite as dominant as it looks, but
and definitely takes time to work some of these out, I think, as well. I think part of the dock thing when we get to it, like snakes have become really popular. 1, because I think they're super efficient. 2, they're just the easy build, right? Like lift and shift. But there's a lot of complexities as well in some of these armies. Even like Disciples of Tzeentch with Zangors, like pushing Zangors up, super buff with the fate points. But actually there's a lot of like technical things.
Skill ceiling up in the sky. You get so good at those armies if you master them.
Can we go? Right. Can we for? Yeah, let's push forward.
Let's push forward.
Otherwise, we'll be here for 3 hours.
Let's get that choo-choo train rolling. Let's not get stuck on 10 minutes per Chaos Army this time.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to. Look, we love to talk Warhammer. I think it's the depth of all of this, but we also, let's create the momentum. So we got Blades of Khorne. We've seen there was a slight increase. I do believe that they were about 52% last. Oh, sorry. So they were 51%. Sorry, I was looking at some of my numbers. They had slightly gone up about 1 basis point, and their popularity remains relatively the same. A couple of things really stood out for me, but before I go, I share my insights. Anything that kind of stands out for you?
Yeah, so like the win rate's about the same, which I think both of us sort of thought was going to be the case, but I'm glad to see the battle formation spread is way more even. The units being taken is more even. It's not like lopsided in those ways. So like it was more of like an internal balance changes, so more so than external balance changes. Like their win rate's very similar, but there's way more things they can play now than before, and I think that's awesome. That was the first thing that stood out to me.
A couple of things that stood out for me was the most popular units we've seen. Blood Warriors get added to the top picks at the expense of Skull Reapers dropping out of the mix. Skull Reapers were in there last month. This month, the Blood Warriors have popped up. And I think people are starting to see more of the benefits of Blood Warriors and Blood Letters, where previously we were going for like the big hitting, like, Bloodthirsters and, some much more that kind of style. Now people are starting to realize that Blood Warriors, Blood Letters, Blood Reavers, those idiots on foot are actually in a really good spot right now.
Yeah.
And it's actually even flipped the popularity on battle tactics, where right now, I believe Intercept and Recover and Restless Energy as a combination has become more popular than what was Master the Parts and Restless Energy. So interesting.
I would say they're in a great spot. They're pretty much perfect where you want an army to be. They're within that range and a pretty tight band of it of win rates. They're quite popular right now. Their spread of wins, like across 1 to 5 wins, is like pretty ideal. The spread of battle formations, yeah, Baleful Lords is higher, but also it's a really fun one. I don't think it's balance wise that much of a problem. Like I would go out and limit say it's probably mostly close to fine. It's just simple and fun. And probably maybe slightly strong, but not like egregiously so. So I think they're in a great spot. If you're playing Khorne, it's a good time to play them.
Yeah, yeah. And look, overall, Blades of Corn hasn't shifted too much month on month. And as you've said, people who want to run Bloodthirster heavy lists are just going to run Baleful Lords. Like, as a Suns player, you can't encourage me to run all of the Man Crushers. I will always play Megas. And I don't care what the win rate is. I don't care what the formation is. I will run that Mega build. So I feel the same as Baleful Lords and a few others. But overall, Khorne is in a relatively good spot. Their win rate is in like the nice little medium. They're settled. Like there hasn't been too much disruption. Wasn't a lot of impact in the last like 30 odd days. So I guess they're going to probably get right at the GHP. I don't think too much is going to change.
I think they're a pretty stable army. So
unless something wild happens with cities where like there's a really good counter, for example, let's say cog forts dominate the meta and we need some real hard hitting power and we see Baleful Lords be the answer or mass bloodletters be the answer.
Or you dump out some Khorne guys out of a cog fort and be like those guys, the fragile damage ones, the ones that just dropped off the most popularity, like from the names.
Skull Reapers,
the blood skulls, the brass bloods. Yeah,
skull something, blood something, skull something, whatever. One of our, I guess, rises up and continue to rise is Disciples of Tzeentch. They've increased their win rate by another basis point. So they were at 56.6. They're now at 57.3. And also we've seen a popularity rise by a basis point. So they were 4.4. Now they're 5.7. So Battle Tomes come out. People are enjoying it. It's doing well at tournaments. It's an interesting book. So we're seeing both popularity and win rate.
Yeah,
go for it.
I have some thoughts on this. I'm kind of opinion on the Disciples of Tzeentch. This is kind of what we predicted. The win wasn't really going to change. A lot of people were already playing with the FAQs that got added. I'm glad they got added, but a lot of people were just assuming those things would change. So I was not expecting them to go down at all. They're a very strong book. The win rate has increased, and this makes sense to me because it's kind of the point I was making with people I was talking to is like Disciples of Tzeentch is a very high skill cap. Like you as a player can get very, very, very good, but a lot of the rules don't have a lot of counterplay from the opponent. So unlike some of these other books, you can't really it's like fighting KO where like either your army can beat it or it can't. And when it's really strong, like there's not that many things you can do as a player if your army can't beat them. And that's kind of the problem with them. There's some pretty easy fixes that I hope that we'll see, but then I'm glad I took a light touch with it. Like, because it's way better than just overreacting and knee-jerk kneecapping them out of the game. But they're in a pretty strong place, and they're pretty unpleasant for a lot of armies to fight, so I hope to see some changes from them. And nothing really, as far as I can see, changed too much with their stuff from Battlescroll.
The one thing I'll call out there that I really noticed is, and I remember talking about this in my Disciples of Tzeentch video, where one of the biggest changes to Blue and Brim horrors was the way that they come back onto the table, being regenerating at the end of the turn rather than when a model is slain. And the negative impacts to that, whether people are running minimum sized units, being able to if that unit dies in the combat phase, you're not going to get a chance to bring those models back. And there was a real switch, so much so that it's actually now dropped out of the top picks. So Blue Horrors have dropped out of the top picks, and instead I'm seeing Carrick Acolytes, the soggy version, has taken its spot. So Tzeentch still needs its screens, but they're finding that Blue Horrors and Brimstone Horrors no longer are the answer. And if you are, you might be taking only one of them to Shadows and Illusions. I forgot the name. The bait and switch for them, and the the acolytes are giving more value. That was like one of the really big things that I noticed month on month.
It's worth noting also that like a lot of the new books that are in a good spot. Well, actually, a lot of the armies are in a good spot right now are very high damage. So it would make sense like something like glues would not be super great right now because like if you're fighting ogres, like you're not gonna have any left, right? Like sometimes the good armies aren't like damage armies, but right now like Doc is super high damage, Sylvaneth is burst damage, ogres are super high damage. So you're kind of in this spot where like they're not living. Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, I was saying when I was playing my new book Zinch, where I'm like, I will not ever take blue horrors without them being reinforced. Like I will like right now the way like if I'm going to run them, I need them reinforced because otherwise I'm just going to be asking not to use their abilities.
Yeah, yeah, which is like, but it's how the mechanics work, so it makes sense. Honestly, I haven't had too much of a problem with the demon army versions. I feel like they're pretty decently balanced. I've had more problems with the mortals where like still there's some stuff that
Well, look, like
yeah.
Zangor's, Zangor Enlightened, Zangor Skyfires,
Fires,
like
Kyric Acolytes, Jade Obelisk, Kyric Acolytes again, famous. Those are all mortals. The mortals are really like a little bit too good. Part of it is like the Kyric Acolytes for Scourge of Giran, were great in last book, but the new abilities are kind of abusive with them. So when they rotate, like that's already a big blow to the Disciples' win rate. And it's kind of like like they couldn't have predicted that would be a thing. You know what I mean? Like it'll rotate. It should. I mean, I would assume go away in like 3 months, and then like yeah, the demons seem fine to me. Mostly if we're pretty darn well balanced. But the mortals probably need some touches.
I will say as well though that notice that there's no Lord of Change in the key units, and that makes sense, right? Because when you look at the way that they're doing Kairos versus the Lord of Change, you don't see a lot of double bird lists anymore. Kairos works really well with your mortals. Your demons works best with Lord of Change. We're not seeing a lot of demons on the top units, which also then has a negative impact to not a lot of Lords of Change, which is why Kairos is being super popular right now. So
Worth saying though, I do think the demons are good. Like it's just that the mortals are better. Like
yeah.
so, like the Lord Change is good, and all those demons are good. They're just a little bit outclassed right now.
I agree. I'm a demon guy. I get it.
I
I
like the
get
demons.
it, but yeah.
I think they're really
Yeah,
good.
for a short period of time I tried to push screamers onto the people. They never bought it. I'm like, 6 screamers, but like
I think
then
they're
like
good. I think screamers are real. I think they're undervalued. They're one of the few units that like no one's playing they should be playing. So
yeah.
take it
I was
from me who doesn't play Zinch right now because I'm the expert. No, but seriously, I do think they're good.
when you reinforce them to 6, it's like 180 points. And it's like, oh, I could get 3 spawns for this. It's like and then
Yeah,
you're
but that's
down
because
at
spawns are like just so
so stupidly good.
stupidly good. So it's like it's not really a problem with the screamers. It's that like there's a couple things that like we need those to be patched first, and then we'll play the cool stuff.
So we've seen a couple of Hedonites of Slaanesh. One non battle tome book. We yet to see a battle tome for Slaanesh. Relatively doing all
Yeah,
right. Like they got
so
a healthy win rate. It's actually increased. So the win rate went up from 48.2 to 50.4. But interestingly, their popularity has decreased from 1.8 to 1.3.
I got some
Now,
hot takes here on this.
yeah, I'm
So I do
curious
play
because
Slaanesh, although I mostly paint them lately. I occasionally bring the tournaments, but I've been waiting for a new book, so I haven't really played them that much in the last year. They get 141, but like I mostly paint them because I love painting them. But I do pay attention to Slaanesh, and I have two things. One, I think that the drop in popularity is connected to the win rate. I think the dedicated people are still playing them, but people were hoping for a lot more from the Battlescroll. They didn't get it, and so a lot of people were like, they kind of like threw up their hands and were like, like they were hoping that like Shalaxi is like still way overcosted, Demonettes are still overcosted. There's a lot of frustration with the bunch of rules. I thought the win rate was going to drop from the Battlescroll, but the popularity did instead. And you don't see too much change when it comes to things like what battle formations people are taking, heroic traits, etc.
Can I pause there? Can I pause you
Yeah.
there for 1 sec? I just realized my graph is completely cooked there. So if you're looking at battle formations, you're looking at Epicurean Revelers and Invaders are both sitting around the 52.9 to 53.3. So they're both very, very similar. Way more games played though with Invaders. So like your popularity pick is Vaders on top, Cavalcade second, Epicurean Revelers a third. But the win rate is sitting somewhere between 47 and 53. Depraved Carnival is just like, I think someone took it for lols one event, but otherwise that's what that cooked graph looks like. I apologize. I'll fix it when I upload it to Patreon.
And notably, there's only even 4 listed there, and there's 6 sub factions. There's only 4 that are even on that graph, and one of them one person took once. So like the changes didn't really change much, and unfortunately, like I do agree with some of the changes they did, but I don't think it was enough to really like reinvigorate the army, unfortunately. And you kind of see that with the popularity drop. The win rate did go up by like 1 point something percent, but it's a pretty low number of games played. And I don't think they're in a bad spot. It's just that people are tired of playing the one list that you can play, I think is the main thing.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because one of the things that I noticed was that the key unit roster had changed. Like what you've seen in the May editions is you're starting to see a popularity focus on Myrmidon Painbringers, Lord of Pain, Lord of Hubris, and the Blissbarb Seekers, as well as obviously your Slangor Fiend Bloods. They've all entered the top picks, while your Shard Speaker, your Keeper of Secrets, your Demonettes, and your Fiend seem to have dropped out.
Right. Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah. So
the shape is changing.
I forgot they'd been played. So basically, there was like some pretty big buffs to the Battlescroll before last to like Keeper and stuff like that, and people tried them out a bunch and didn't work out very well for them. But the list is competitive didn't really change too much. I think people hoped that it would, but like you just need like Demonettes can't be 100 points. Yeah, like they're like 5 up save or 6 up save or something like that. I think it might be 6 up, 6 up. Like it's just one of those things where like it really is a points issue for a lot of it. But like Painbringers are decent now, and they're my favorite model in the army, and I have like 30 of them painted. So that did jump up significantly. And I do think Blissbarb Seekers also have seen more play. So like those definitely have shown up more. So it's definitely an improvement, but just not quite there in my opinion. And I think they would need another touch in that direction to really open that door.
The other thing I'll call out really quickly is I noticed that while your voice box is still your most popular artifact, the pendant has overtaken the icon. So last month, icon was second most popular. Now pendant is second most popular. So interesting. And I do wonder, does the Myrmidon, the Painbringers, would they be a recipient of a cog fort? Would that be an interesting delivery mechanic potentially. If transport comes?
It could be. It's really curious. I think that like they like those castle builds, and those cog forts that like cannon one could be like a really good thing for them to be standing around. That's less vulnerable than like the Blissbarb archers, for example. So I think they're one of the armies that definitely could love to see it. And the demon builds also would probably like putting 20 demoness or something in that. All of a sudden, problem solved with the 6 up save. You're like, I can come out and charge you as opposed to getting tickled off the table.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see.
I'm super. There's so many armies that are going to be like that. One changed that those armies that have been limited this whole time are going to like jump up. So
I want to see conversions. Helsmiths, our boys. I was gonna say my boys, but actually they're your boys too. Love the Helsmiths. So where are we at? Slight increase on the win rate has gone from 48.1 to 49.4. But they've also seen a popularity decrease of 3.5 down to 3.1. They've obviously been a relatively new army, came out kind of September, October, the full line kind of came out that October, November kind of period. Have people just hit the wall? Are we tired of them? Are we like, is it the season rules? I know for me, for some of the obscuring was kind of getting annoying, having like war machines and so much shooting units got to deal with obscuring.
I have some questions for you, Bob, because you play Helsmiths. You're pretty familiar with them. I want to know what you think. Have you been seeing, or do you feel like the changes to Battlescroll were like causing significant impacts on people were bringing in Helsmiths?
Honestly, I found so I went 4-1, just like top 10, I think it was, or 12th or something at CanCon, right? With Helsmiths, a couple of months out of the gate. And when I take that list, I only say that because like it was a good list. I take that same list after Battlescroll. I think I saved like 30 or 40 points. And to me, what it meant is I could change my idiots on foot with swords into idiots with spears. But otherwise, there was some cute changes, but not enough for me to
Yeah, to like fundamentally change.
Yeah, like if the Anointed's got a different war scroll where they're more of a bodyguard for Oryctar, or they did something like I didn't need the points discount. I don't need a cheap Anointed. What I need is something that is like my Bull Centaurs are very aggressive hammers. Give me an anvil version of them who can run defense with like blockers in NFL football, like block,
Which
protect my Bull
theoretically they're
Centaur.
supposed to do, but
Yeah,
realistically, it doesn't quite play out that way, right? Like, I know what you mean by that. Like, so I personally got pretty excited about the Minotaurs. I always call them Minotaurs. What are they called? Oh my gosh.
Are you Doom Bulls?
The machines.
Oh, your Robo Bulls.
The Robo Bulls. I call them
your
Minotaurs.
Dominator engine.
I call them Minotaurs so much I forget their name.
Go for it.
I got really excited when I saw the points drop. I built a bunch of lists, and I started like trying to buy some online and stuff like that because I didn't have any yet, and I still don't have any yet. But
I will 4 of them.
I love them. Like, I think they're so cool, and like they really like get me excited. And the points dropped enough to where they're good. The problem is like they're not good enough to be like good. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh yeah, I can justify playing them now. So I think that's why the win rate didn't really change. Probably dropped a little bit, but not too much. Like 3 or 4.4% is like, it is a drop, but it's not huge. But like the win rate didn't really change because like the lists that were already good changed maybe 30, 40 points. Lists that were bad are now like probably around a similar range of power. And they're in not a bad spot. But what I will say is, looking at this graph, the wins distribution looks a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more 4 wins, a little bit more 1 wins as well, instead of just being all 2-3-3-2 forever. It's still not great, but it's better. And I don't think they're in a bad spot. They're just not in a great spot.
I will say that one big issue with Helsmiths right now is the battle formation is primarily dominated either by the industrial polluters, because it's the only battle formation that doesn't require you to have 3 demon points on a unit, and majority of people don't put 3 demon points on any unit outside of like a few random situations. The second one is that the most popular build continues to be like your Grand Forge host from the Armies of Renown, which then throws away the entire rule set of your Helsmiths and plays a completely different, almost like Daughters of Cain table kind of mix, which then like once you drop industrial polluters, does Forge Host continue to spike even higher? Or and I don't think Robo Bull's in that one. No,
well, yeah.
Bull Centaurs aren't in that one. There's one of them like
but you can play the Minotaurs.
You know what I mean? Like it skews things a lot. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, but I think there's some interesting plays that points alone can't solve. And the Soggy War Despot, when that drops out, I'll be curious to see, because the War Despot is doing some heavy lifting.
Yeah, without some errata rule changes for like making the sub factions work a little better, I would expect that once Soggy stuff rotates out, it's going to be rough. But I did make a video going over some cool lists for Helsmiths and some cool ideas. If people want to check it out, I did a Hear Me Out videos on my channel talking about them. I think there's some really cool stuff you can do. They're going to be hovering around this 50% win rate, but like there is some fun and exciting builds, and a lot of opportunities did open up.
And do check it out, because I submitted a list that I was going to play, but I ended up playing into, which includes Scarbrand as a Regiment of Renown in Helsmiths.
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So
I played into it.
Yeah, it's
I
fighting,
It was bizarre. It was so
yeah,
bizarre
it's
fighting Scarbrand.
crazy
Like,
list.
I'm gonna deal with six bull centaurs and Scarbrand. Like,
Yeah,
what?
while getting
Why am
shot.
I doing this? Is insane. Maggotkin of Nurgle's looking relatively decent. I say that, win popularity, the win rate is 53%. It's slightly gone down. It was 55.7, now 53.1. And the popularity one is relatively stable. It was 70.0, now it's 70.1. No, nothing in that. But interestingly enough, 70 is quite a large number. So Maggotkin Nurgle still remains popular as a faction and is doing relatively well. So I imagine if you're going to a GT, expect that one of these, you very well likely could play into Stormcast, Nurgle, or both.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those armies you got to know how to play against. I think people are learning how to play against it because that's one of the things about it is like once you know how Nurgle works, your win rate will jump a lot higher than when you don't know what's going on. I do think they're a strong army. They're not a abusively strong army. They're just strong. They have a little bit of internal balance issues, as we see with the battle formations, especially. I'm again kind of surprised that Nurgle's Menagerie is that low because like the monsters have quite a high win rate, like the Monster Mash builds, or even medium amounts of monsters. And Nurgle's Menagerie is great with them. But Taliban and Nurgle is super, super like way popular. I don't even think it's necessarily all that crazy strong, but it's just it can go into literally any list. But I do think that Rot Swords and Lord of Plagues need a little tap, but the rest of the army feels pretty close to right, honestly. Like if Rot Swords and Lord of Plagues go up in a few points, this win rate probably comes to like 51%, and they're like right where they need to be. So, and they're fun to play against, in my opinion. Not everyone likes playing against tanks, but I think they're fun. They're interactive and fun games.
Yeah, the Rot Sword's been the number one unit. One, it comes to the surprise of nobody. The minute we saw those War Scrolls, we're like, if these are pointed fairly or even under, like this is going to be super popular versus like Sloven Knights who were feeling a little underwhelming. But I have played into Sloven Knights a few times, and I must admit I didn't give them as much credit as I deserved. But
Yeah.
maybe because I wanted them to be a hard hitting, not Varangard, but I wanted some type of like 50% of
You're
Varangard, like
hoping
some
for
type of
more of a hitting unit when they're not. They're like a utility unit. And it's kind of
they're
interesting. I think a lot of people feel that way about them. Like you never really want to reinforce them, even though they seem like a unit you want to run 6 of, and you're like, but that's not really what they do. But they are a good unit and they're interesting. Yeah, Rot Swords need a touch though. They're just 10, maybe 10 up on Rot Swords, a little bit up on Lord of Plague, just enough to like kind of bring them more into line. And they're not like crazy overpowered, but they are a little too strong.
and Belga there. Belga is such a good little unit with a
Yeah.
fatty, usually hiding behind the fatty, so it's so hard to go out and reach Belga, but it's such a great unit. So
Plus one to
no,
cast is strong, especially when you have it next to Rodigus and just +2 to cast. It's like it's really good.
yeah, yeah, super good. But hey, shout out to Pestigore. I never thought I'd see this day that Pestigore will be hitting on the table, but here they are,
Yeah, they
and
are.
they're getting picked.
I
Doing
think
all
they're quite
right.
good. So
I know, but like more like just back in the
yeah,
ye old day where they used to have like the 4 versions of a Beast of Chaos that was like, was it Pestigore? Oh god, I
Gore,
forgot.
Gore.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
Corngor. I was trying to think of the corn version, Corngor, and
which
I
there's never
remember
been
them like
models for, I don't think, but
they had the made to order metals, and
oh
then
yeah,
it
like
never
the
happened.
'90s or something. Like yeah, I remember that
It was
actually. That was like that was like right when I started Warhammer.
so good. No, Nurgle, you're doing well. Skaven, as we said, Skaven has one of the lower win percentages in the meta right now, but certainly does have a good representation. But what you can see here, and like, one, you've got the distribution curve where you look at win percentages, right? It's an arc, and it is going at like 0 wins. And I think part of it you got to remember, like Stormcast, is when you're in a starter box, it can be one of the newer armies that people
Yeah,
get into, and you can be brought down a little bit for those reasons. But you've
yeah,
really peaked at the 2-3-3-2. Very few of them are breaking through to 4-1-5-0.
yeah. I have some pretty strong opinions on this. I'm a Skaven enjoyer. I did give my Skaven army to a new player, so I don't have him anymore. But I've Skaven was my first army in Warhammer. I love Skaven. And I think they are actually not as bad as these stats show.
Mm.
I think they're very hard to play. And they also are in beginner boxes. So Stormcast are in beginner boxes and fairly simple. Skaven are like unforgiving, very difficult, very high skill cap, but also in beginner boxes. And then also, I think this GHB is just kind of unfriendly to them right now. There's so much obscuring, and like they really rely on getting those random shots in, and those strong shots and small shots across the table. All these little things they do, and they're not. It's like too easy to shut them down right now. And I don't think they're like necessarily bad, but like there's certain maps that have a lot of obscuring right now. And it's just as a Skaven player, you're like, well, I got this Warp Lightning Cannon, and it's useless 1 game out of 5, maybe 2 games out of 5, and so you're just going to lose that game. So I think some of their strength is kind of like in a weird spot, right? They're actually fairly strong in most games, and then the wrong map, you really suffer. And then also like they're very, very, very difficult to play. Like, and they'll bait you into making bad choices. If these cool abilities, and you'll blow yourself up. Knowing exactly when and where to do things, and they're super fragile. So like being a beginner box army that's also incredibly hard will lower that win rate. I don't think they're anywhere near this bad. Like if you're like a good Skaven player, I think they're in a pretty good spot, and they're a fantastic like teams army right now.
Yeah, I think when Skaven's been at their strongest, it's often when Scryer is their strongest, and this season is so anti-Scryer outside of your Storm Fiends
Yeah,
because they're not reliant on the mechanic of like longer range, like your Jezzails, your, as you said, the Warp Lightning Cannon and things like that. The other thing as well, and this has always been like an inner conflict. I look at the Vermin Lords and I wish they were 350 to 400 points, but actually had rules that deserve 350, 400 points. Like, I'm not
yeah,
saying like they're too cheap, bring them up. Like, give me
better stuff.
Bloodthirster.
Yeah,
Give me
I
that type of greater demon.
completely agree. Like this has been a long standing conversation with Skaven players, this specific one, but like the Pestilence one should be Priest 2. Um, just a simple thing, but like the way his rules work and his war scroll works, like it make a huge difference. The Vermin Lord
Music.
Warbringer, like
Oh, the Warbringer.
Warbringer, like his ability is like you can use all attacks several times in one turn around him to other Verminous units, but you have to spend a CP each time. And so it's like if that was not the case, it was free when he did those, he'd be like, oh man, this unit's cool, and he could like jump in points, people be playing him because he does something cool. And they're unfortunately they got some war scrolls that just didn't land. The idea was there, but the execution didn't work. So I really wish that they were better because they're such cool models and they've cool ideas to them, but some of them are just like a little bit too tame and could really do with like a different scroll.
As one of the original battle tomes, just to keep us moving forward, as one of the original battle tomes, I actually would love. I know Skaven kind of holds its ground, and I think you are still seeing some 4-1s, 5-0s. I would love to see like what would this battle tome look like if it was written today, not written probably in 3rd edition, about to go into 4th edition. So actually, not probably was because it was a launch battle tome. I'll be interested to see what they do in the next General's Handbook, if not the next. But I think the new season, as long as it's not focused on obscuring, like if as long as we're not in Gairan again, if we stay in Gairan, I think expect the same type of problem. But if we get out of Gairan, I think Skaven will see a significant increase because obscuring just naturally
Yeah,
gone.
yeah.
Well, it won't be as impactful. It
Yeah,
wasn't
I mean, I'm sure it'll
impactful.
be around, but right now, like it's specifically this GHB is just unfriendly to shooting.
Well, it was no issue in the first season. Like if no
Yeah,
one was talking obscuring in the first season, it was all manifestations. Oh, good lord, I need to fix that graph as well. Why did you do that? Slaves to Darkness, probably because I'm on PowerPoint and not on Word. I'm going to blame PowerPoint on this. There's a word on this one. Word. PDF. Slaves to Darkness. We've seen they've certainly been struggling. Their win rate has gone down a little bit from 47.5 to 46.2. Their popularity, again, they're also dropped from 59 to 50. So we're starting to see a few drops. And we were also even seeing people like Abraxia dropping out of top picks.
yeah. There's several very telling things I think on the screen. Number one is that absolute cliff at 3 wins. The army, unfortunately, is just very, very, very straightforward, and it either gets there or it doesn't, and there's not a lot of agency for most of the players. And that's kind of the overall frustrations that the Darkness players are experiencing. Like 4 and 5 wins, like there's none. But there's a lot of 3 wins. Like you can do pretty good, but it's really hard to get past 3 wins. And that's kind of telling how the army is right now. But kind of in a more positive note, Be'lakor the Dark Master being key unit number 1. He is super good in the meta. Like the way the new books work, he just naturally counters a lot of what they're doing. And he's really been shining super bright lately and really showing up a lot. And just naturally, like his strike first mechanics, his ability to shut down key units, the way he plays, like his resistance to rend stuff, with a lot of very high rend elite attacks, has been super relevant. So like he's shining super bright. The rest of the army is kind of struggling a little bit right now, and needs some help, in my opinion.
And you also got to remember that it was only this time last month that Champions of Chaos got absolutely smashed with 40
points. Yeah, it was like, why? It was fine. Like it was, yes, it was popular, but it was like not a problem, So I was surprised to see that.
And they also smashed them with the auxiliaries. So like even if you were abusing your heroes using the auxiliary program, then you were already getting smashed in your points anyway as you took more auxiliaries. So it felt a bit of an overkill. And by the way, for those people, I apologize. I just checked all the rest of the graphs. They should be pretty good after this one. So Godwrath Warband and Champions of Chaos are relatively around the same wins, both by games being played and wins. So they're both kind of neck on neck. Godwrath has a 50.6 win rate, while Champions of Chaos have a 45.5. So I think you're starting to see the impacts of the Champions of Chaos coming in.
Yeah, like it was kind of the best way to build them. And it got nerfed out of ability to be played, period, which sucks. But like some of the other stuff did get buffed, so like their overall win rate probably did raise. But like it is a frustrating spot for them to be, and I think like it's not a great 3-month period for Slaves of Darkness players. Dark Oath is doing good, but like by good I mean like it's fun to play right now.
I literally was about to say the shining light in Slaves is Dark Oath, and I never would have thought when I released the Battletome preview like 18 months ago that I would be saying that Dark Oath. I remember doing a video with someone in America who went 4-1 with Dark Oath, and the first question was, "How did you do this?"
Yeah, like I mean, they're one of those armies that like on paper they don't look that good, but when you actually play them, at first you will lose at first, but like because they're hard, and they don't work the way that normal slaves work. So if you're a slaves player and you're like, I'm playing Dark Oath, and you're like, I'm gonna fight and win, it's like that's not how it works. But once you get used to it, it's really fun. The Dark Oath plays like one of the new books, but with way worse war scrolls.
Yeah,
but it has those like really complex mechanics, all those layers of interactions, all these tools you can do, so you're always doing something, and so it's really fun. It's challenging. Your war scrolls aren't going to be as good as like the new books, but you are like playing the same kind of game they are. You're rapier fencing, only yours is like a foot shorter, but like it's still fun. Like, and I've been really enjoying them. I just don't think regular slaves are in a great spot, but Dark Oath are in a very nice spot. And their win rate on the hands of a good player is definitely positive right now.
and a few have broken through, and as I did mention, Daniel Patterson, Slaves of Darkness, Taxman Cometh did still go 5-0. So some are breaking through, and that they are certainly not building around warriors, Vanguard, Chosen, the traditional what you would think of.
Yeah, although you are seeing Vanguard show up in teams tournaments, but that's niche and that's not in this data. So, but they are good, but they're kind of narrow. So
yeah. Like I said, I mean, Chosen are still in the top picks there, right? Like a lot of these, like you still got Vanguards, like, but like what's breaking through is what I just said. Yeah.
All right. Death time.
Let's go.
Let's not get stuck in that same trap we're in. Let's go.
No, we're doing much
No,
better.
we're doing fine.
We're doing much better.
Yeah.
So Flesh Eater Courts, we're seeing one of the top 5 win percentages, seeing their really healthy 2-3-3-2, couple of probably way more 4 and 1s, as well as like some really strong number of 5 and O's. So definitely on the stronger side. We have seen some tweaks where we've seen like Royal Menagerie was definitely stronger last time, if I remember correctly. You have seen some reordering where, you know, some of them have had a little bit of a shift, like your Royal Zombie Dragon has become more of a popular pick than some of your other ones, and I think it's because of points. Like we did see a lot of points on our dragon variants, and it had to buckle somewhere.
Yeah.
But overall, like there hasn't been a lot of changes when you look at the formations, the tactics. The win rate did slightly go down from 59 to 56. And the popularity went down from 5.3 to 4.2. So
Yeah.
the efficiency of the dragon build may have gotten people to turn away and go find the latest.
I think part of the thing that's like not really showing so well in the specific graph is that the win rate for Royal Menagerie was like 76%, and the popularity of that's gone down, and the other win rates are still very good. So the overall win rate only dropped like 3% because it was such a targeted nerf, right? But like that one got brought right down basically in line with the rest of the faction. There's a little bit of data included in these numbers from before the Battlescroll, not a ton, but a little bit.
Yes.
So it kind of flavors it, but it's headed in the right direction. And I think they're probably a little bit too much on the strong end still. But not massively so. And they're not, when you play against them, at least it doesn't feel like you're not throwing your hands in the air. It's just they're very explosive, and they more often than not get there. But like, it doesn't feel like you can't play against them. You know, it's not that kind of strong army. It's just like they come in, they're like, I'm gonna kill you, and then like they usually a little bit more often than not get there. But like, it's not like they're going 5-0, 5-0, 5-0, 5-0, 5-0 sort of thing. They're a little risky. So I'm not super worried about their win rate. I think it might continue to drop a little bit over time, and maybe next bounce will get some light touches, but they're a fun army in a good spot.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the makeup looks like because you can still see it there. Like it's dominated by dragons, Royal Zombie Dragon, Ghoul King on Terrorgeist. There was the Terrorgeist. Like you can see, like you've got a real strong dominance, but you've still then got Usharan with the Crypt Guard. Your Morbeg Knights, your Beast Flayers are also like coming up as well. So you've got at least a few lists. It'd be great to see the Horrors Flayers, you know, other types of lists kind of coming through. But right now, as you said, you got a bit of a hangover from the dragon build. Let's see what it looks like in another 30 days, but it is trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the other lists do show up, but they're just a little bit more niche. But they're still good. So it's a good spot. So I'm excited to see where they go from here. I think it'll continue to kind of adjust over the next like month or two.
Something that's not going as well. I'm not surprised. Like I thought when I looked at Nighthaunt, there was some good stuff in the Nighthaunt book, but it feels like it's aged really badly. Like almost like IDK. Like IDK and Nighthaunt came out of the gates with a couple of interesting things. You saw some tweaks to like once per armies to Pyregeist and things like that that slowly like nerfed the faction. You know, the win rate went down from 46 to 45.5. Their popularity has gone from 2.4 to 2.1. So it is having the impacts, and maybe the top players who were running Nighthaunt have abandoned Nighthaunt, and it's now just the stalwarts who like just love their faction. They
Yeah.
love Alinda, and you know, they're doing their best, doing 2-3s and 1-4s, but not enough good players are pushing through to break through to like what the new
Yeah.
build is.
I think like I think I kind of said some of this at the last one, and it's proving to be true, which is just that like they have good rules. They're just overcosted. Like their infantry units are like so expensive. It's what are they called? The Reapers are the ones that like don't let units return in combat with them. I remember the Banshees, the 4 limbs.
Yeah.
Those ones are like 200 points for 10. I think, and like they should probably be 170. And so it's like the war scrolls are good, the abilities are good, the heroes are good, all these interesting rules, but like their points don't match up with where the game is, and they dropped by like 10 points on those units, and they needed like 20 to 30 points drops each to have any chance of like being there. But it's not really a problem with the book. I think the book has some really cool stuff and like a lot of cool rules, a lot of cool interactions, a lot of cool buffs. All the heroes feel good to me. The rules are really neat and interesting and interactive and cool and synergistic. You just end up slowly dying because you don't have the math on your side. And that's my kind of opinion on it.
Yeah, I feel like they're paying a heavy price for their ward.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, if I pulled up Grimghast Reapers, for example, right? Grimghast Reapers are 10 models, 2 health each for 200 points. And I did allude to my Daughters of Cain snakes, right? I do think blood snakes will go up in points. Like I'm getting 3 health. Yes, the save isn't as good, the ward isn't as good, but I'm getting 3 health a model for 140 points. So reinforce it's 280 for 30 health. And I can bring them back. There's a whole bunch of
they hit like harder, and they have really good supporting rules. A better example is to think at the rot sorts. Same points cost.
Oh, they're
same
so
wounds.
undercosted.
Like they're undercosted for sure, but like right now they're the same cost.
Yeah.
And that's like you're like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like,
nah.
Yeah, they have a ward save, but they also have like a 6-up or 5-up save. I think it's 5-up, 5-up. And they don't hit super hard. They have cool utility, but like so do the rod swords. The rod swords also a 5-up ward most of the time, and have really great supporting heroes also. So they're really like equivalent units, and one of them is just like rod swords probably 210, 220 should be, and the Reaper should be like 180, 170.
Rod swords have a 3-up base, while Grimmies have a 6-up
and a
base.
5-up. And a 5-up, right? Because they're going to be next to that tree. So it's so they're going to have that 5-up board too. So it's a math issue because the war scrolls are good. The war scrolls are genuinely good. They just are way too expensive.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. That was my feel. Like I remember Nighthawk not being a bad book. Like I actually played a bunch of playtest games going into the game, and like it was actually pretty solid. You're right. I'd probably say a points discount, whether it's a June alignment, July.
That area.
Yeah. Like I actually don't know the date. I don't have the book. But
we can guess because usually it's around that time each year. And literally, like if they did a good points drop on a lot of stuff, this army would suddenly play the way it's supposed to and be so much better. Because the war scrolls are good. Like some books, you're like, points can't fix it. Like Cruel Boys, you're like, it's rough.
Terrain features awesome. They've got, you only charge if you roll on a 7. They've got really interesting rules out there that would actually play nicely into like some of these factions. So let's see. It's an interesting one. I think you're right. Like Skaven, there's some things holding them back that isn't the battle tome.
Yeah.
This is my one. Yes. I'm taking the lead on this one because some of you left me some nasty comments like, you should get paid for being an actor. OBR is crap. Guess what? It's not as bad as you thought it was. You guys all freaked out, and I understand a playstyle changed. I understand you like your army going a certain way. But unfortunately for you, the book changed, and you know what? It's going pretty all right. It's had a couple of 5-0s. I think one dropped off. There's been a couple of 5-0s. Some of them are on BCP.
I had seen more than one.
No, because I'm only using BCP and some of the European events. So like Dario, for example, who is top ITC, won it last year for OBR because he plays a lot of Europe tournaments. They don't all use BCP, so some of them don't get factored into this. Yeah. But OBR has done relatively well, even outside of Dario. Dario is not the only one kind of carrying this particular faction, but they're starting to break through. BCP alone, we've had a 49.4% win rate. We've got a pretty solid popularity. If you start looking at the distribution of certain things, yes, the win rate has slightly gone down as we start working through it. but my God, people are starting to get the triaxes, and they're starting to work out how they start generating their discipline points, and they started bringing back their terrain feature as well. So it's an interesting one, and I think this is going to only continue to grow as more people play with them.
Yeah, I think so
Like
too.
that Triaxi block, like the Leash Mortec with Triaxes and Mortec Guard, is brutal to deal with.
Yeah, it's a very strong army. It's almost entirely in the hands of the player on how well they do for this army, but it's a very good army. It's some armies, the win rate isn't necessarily reflective of how good its potential is. Like OBR and Iron Jaws is another one of those. A couple other armies were like, it's really good in the right player's hands. OBR is just like very well balanced. Like so many units are like viable. There's so many different builds. Some of the sub factions are really popular, but I think part of that has more to do with like it being new, obvious choices. Start with the ground and like build and start exploring from there. Like Hektos Drill Masters is really popular, but like there's a lot of ways to play them, and people I think will start to explore those more as they get comfortable with how the new rules work. I don't think they're necessarily weaker. They're just not. They're like not the obvious choice, and those show up like later on.
Yeah, a couple of things I'll add is that one thing I'm so happy to see, but sometimes I'm also sad to see. So Special K Catacross has dropped off the most popular pick. He was almost like number one pick in OBR. Is that Catacross?
He was guaranteed.
People,
Yeah.
everyone started their list with Catacross. Like you almost always started your list with Catacross. And if they didn't, you'd like get your little, hand put it on the forehead to see if they were sick. You're like, what's wrong with you? Like what happened to your Catacross? But Arcan is rising. This is a good war scroll. And I remember the video I did with Brian. I'm like, this has got some legs. He's pretty solid, and he's been certainly picked up. But I also got to say, my sadness comes with where are the chariots? Where are my chariots?
Maybe it's about building them because they seem good. Like to me,
they're not.
I mean, maybe not great, but like I to be fair, I don't play OBR, and like I actually don't know what their point cost is, but their war scroll when I read it was pretty good. I didn't look at their points cost, so maybe they're overcosted or something. But I liked what they looked like, and one of my friends was playing them on a couple games against me. He was doing well with them, but it is what it is on that.
I think you get because you're focusing on like your Liege Mortec, Lufton, the one at the back with the Triaxes and things like that, you likely aren't spending all your points on your Liege Cavalos on War Chariots. 230, so he's not too bad, like health 12, but that type of style of list is just not as popular. Like you're even seeing your Stalkers have dropped off your top picks. Yes, you're a Mortis Guarder there, but your Stalkers are no longer there. And if you want something that's fast, you've still got your Morghast Archive and things like that. So the role that it's playing, you're not seeing that style right now. So
I just think it's a right now thing. That's my personal opinion. I think it's just one of those things that's very, very high skill cap and not immediately obvious and kind of risky to build a list and try it out and test it. I think they have a lot of potential, and some players I know personally who are very experienced OBR players are playing around with them and having success. I don't think they're bad necessarily. They're just harder to play, and people are having a lot of fun with the Triaxes because the Triaxes are really cool. They're really cool. I hate fighting them as Iron Jaws, but I do have a little bit of envy in my heart. I wish I could have that in my army. It's really cool.
And I'll also say before we move on, shout out to Mortis Reapers. They're in the top picks that I was unsure where this would land. I'm like, they seem like a cool unit, but I don't quite know. But the fact that they're 90 points, I think they're a great battle tactics scorer.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the battle tactics. They help you play the game and score while you're doing your OBR stuff. So they're great unit.
Yeah, super interesting. So anyway, that's OBR. Not as bad as they thought they were. So I look forward to my apologies in the comment section.
You could
don't maybe go.
Actually.
I'm ready to go into the video and tag everyone. Like, so how's it going, mate? Maybe sometimes you can't see the forest from the trees. Soulblight. Soulblight's an interesting one. They're relatively stable. They were 47.8. They're now 47.2. Their popularity was 50.2, so 5.2. Now they're 5.1. Imagine 50% popularity. Like one in
Yeah,
every two of opponents would be Soulblight. But honestly, like
it's
no
actually
real major
shocking how
changes.
little has changed, right? Like that's the weirdest thing. I thought you would see so much more Death March than we're seeing. I thought we'd see significant changes in win rate. I was expecting a lot of changes from what I was reading, and it looks like not so much. Like
Can I see the
you're
biggest
seeing more
change?
Barrel Guard, and stuff like that, but like I was expecting a lot more of a dramatic change than what we're seeing here. That's my big takeaway from this.
Do you know what the biggest change was?
What?
The artifact order. That's it. The biggest. So last month, the artifact order in popularity was Terminus Cloak, then Amulet of the Graves, then Shard of Night, then Chalice. We've now gone Amulet of the Graves, Shard, Terminus Cloak, Chalice.
Yeah,
So
that's hilarious. Like I think the Bacchanal Blood thing highlights a point that a lot of solo players are talking about, and we talked about in the last video, which is that like why is this? This is like so clearly the best battle formation, and every single Battlescroll, this has been the ratio, and they never raised the points of Bacchanal Blood. Because but it really should cost like 30 points, and then some vampires maybe can drop in points. Because it's totally fine a vampire build, but like even skeleton builds are bringing it because they have one vampire. It's like that's probably a problem. I think the army is pretty good. It's so fundamentally fair that it's not really ever going to leave that 45 to 55 area. But like it's in a decent spot. Like 47 is not bad. Like people tend to look at this like, oh, 47 army sucks. It's like it's 3%. Like it's not actually a bad army. It's not a great army, but it's not a bad army.
I think what worries me about Soulblight is there seems to be an over reliance on Vordry as like your main hero. So like Nephi and Manfred aren't really showing up. But also the Barrow Knights and how many have that core block of like White King on Steed with Barrow Knights. They're very, very good, right? And assuming that like they get too good, then their points go up. What does it mean? Because like zombies aren't really seeing play with the corpse card, even though there's a soggy corpse card. There's so much riding on certain types of builds. And yes, I love Blood Knights. Yes, I love Vordry, except when he does his 6-inch pile shenanigans to me. But outside of that, like there's core war scrolls that are being used consistently that I almost wonder, like there's so much that needs to be unlocked, like the Necromancer, like I said,
Yeah.
those, you know, yeah, there's a lot that could be tapped
I
into. Even
personally
like
would be playing the skeleton builds. Like I look at them like this looks awesome. This looks right up my alley. I love these. These look strong. The points are right. I'm surprised how little it changed because there's so many cool things you can do, but everyone's still doing the Blood Knights and Prince Fortray, which are also really cool. So I get it, and they are still good, but it is weird how like everyone's kind of still playing that exact same build.
And part of this might be, and the last point that I'll make before we move on is the battle tactic popularity shifted. Last month, the number one picks were Master the Pass and Restless in that combination. It's now Restless and Scouting Force. So we've dropped Master and swapped it to Scouting Force. And considering you've got a lot of like scouting type of units, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. So maybe there's been more like subtle shifts that are hard to look at on just graphs that are going on within armies. Like people are changing things, but it's like not really showing up on paper very well. I'm curious. I'm gonna have to ask some of my Soulblight friends about this.
Super interesting. Anyway, that's death. I think we're doing all right at the time. We're doing all right. Yeah. Well,
the fun part. All right.
I say that before we go into some of my favorite armies and yours.
Yeah.
Starting with mine, I don't want to talk about this. Gitz have dropped in win rate and in popularity. So they were 43.4. Now they're 42.2. And then they were 55.1. Why do I keep saying 50? 5.1 down to 4.9. So the representation hasn't changed that much. what you've started to see is your Spore Splatter Fanatics dropping off the list and being replaced by your Dankhold. But otherwise, this faction, I don't think in the Battlescroll got many positive changes that were impactful. Like, yeah, sorry, that was like that were impactful enough that those heavy nerfs that we got in December on a bunch of things, like I said, the chariots, the Boingrots, even going back to when the battle tome very first dropped, and the tweaks to your rock gut Troggoths, and how the defensive shrine, the sun and the moon kind of shining on them. Like, there hasn't been enough positive stuff since then, and there's it's not like this was too strong, so let's go somewhere else. There's just nothing that's holding its ground, and
I definitely agree. Like, we saw sweeping 10-point drops, and like 10-point drops just aren't enough. Like, when an army is struggling pretty hard, and the meta is like zooming past it. Like, we saw the 10-point drops on some of the Troggoths. But the problem was that, like, it didn't actually even like let you fit an extra thing. It was like, cool, my list dropped 40. Okay, like, it doesn't actually do anything, right? Need a little bit more drama on that. Like, the catapult Doomdiver really needed to, like we were talking about, drop 10 is like, that thing should drop at least 20, probably 30. So it's like, it's the right direction, but it's just not quite enough where you turn that corner where your army starts working. There's a lot of cool stuff that the points are just off on, and like, Trogs are a stat army, and stat armies don't work unless they're cheap, so it sucks. It's a rough spot for Gitz right now. But they're not the worst. So, but it's not a good spot. Like, and unfortunately, I don't think that's going to change over the next couple months before the next Battlescroll comes up. So
keep stalling.
Yeah, it's fine.
160. Okay. Because, like, I'm looking, like, for example, like, your Iron Blaster is 160 and your Doomdiver Catapult's 160. If I had a choice between the two and I could have a Gitz Iron Blaster, I'd be taking that every day of the week.
Every time, right? Like, and it's not been good since the book came out, and they're being way too ginger with those points stretches. Like, when something has like a 20% win rate, 10 points is not going to fix that. So it really needs a little bit more help. I do think that Gitz is one of the armies that would love to see the cog for it, so that's something. I do think they benefit more than some other armies do with that. But it's they just needed more love than they got, and like, God help the Spider Rider players who somehow still haven't been squatted. But
I don't know how you survived, Spiders. I genuinely, I tell you right now, like, I without seeing the rules for the cog fort, if it's fairly pointed and there's a heavy shooting variant, I think Destruction's going to have a great time, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's a heavy shooty one, because we know there's a lot of, like, there's a flame thing and there's a big cannon and all these things, right? But like, one of the big issues for Destruction generally has been shooting. Like, outside of their catapult, Gitz shooting is pretty average. Sun shooting is pretty average. Iron Jaws need non-existent.
They have none, basically.
Yeah, like, I don't even know if more crushers still have a breath attack. You know what I mean? Like, Destruction lacks a lot of shooting. And maybe that central, like, imagine a cog fort that shoots being surrounded by Boingrots or Dankhold Trog Boss, or wolves and things like that. There is opportunity.
Yeah, I think Destruction in general uses stuff like a cog fort really well. Because they're like armies that are inherently limited in that way. Like, I definitely am going to be customizing one for my Iron Jaws, because they would love to have something like that. Like, they don't have tools like that, whereas like Order and Chaos and Death have more flexible tools. So it might bring a lot of new life into Gitz lists.
Let's see, but I think definitely right now it's slim pickings, unless something changes, or we start having the answers. For example, just all the stabbers, just like blocks of stabbers, like 200, 300 stabbers.
Yeah.
And we just play the board.
It is good. She would like to play that. I do think that list is good.
Don't do that.
All right, it's Jaws time.
Yeah, You take it. Oh, by the way, with Gitz, literally nothing changed. Master of the Past, Restless Energy, still the same. Popularity, like literally, like Loon Touch, Clammy Cow, it's all the same. Iron Jaws.
So Iron Jaws technically the win rate dropped. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Not
They are
technically, it did. Not technically, it did.
It
went
did
from
drop.
40
It went from 52 to 48.5. However, there's a reason for that, and it's kind of more nuanced than it looks. So everyone's playing Big Pig spam, and Big Pig
Yes.
spam is like extremely swingy, but it's pretty easy to go 3-2 with it. It's pretty hard to go 5-0 with it. So everyone's playing infantry armies now. Not everyone, but like there's a lot more of those. A lot more flexibility. People are playing way more variation in what they're bringing to the table. A lot more things are more viable now, and I would say that like the ability to go 5-0 increased with Iron Jaws with this battle. However, their average win rate dropped because you aren't getting a whole bunch of people just spamming big pigs and going 3-2. So it looks like it was actually a downgrade, but the actual experience, if you talk to Iron Jaws players, like they're hyped about right now. They're like, this army feels so good right now. It's just that like it's more of a general's army. It's got a really high skill cap. There's a lot of things that can go wrong and a lot of decisions to make every game. So people are like on average winning less, but they're getting more 4-1s, for example. They're playing more, like engaging the game really fully. Brutes are absolutely kicking ass, but they're not like broken. I thought Brutes got overbuffed. I may have been wrong about it, but I don't think I actually was. I think they're just one of those units that's like when you move 4 inches and you make a mistake, it's hard to recover from that. But in the hands of really good players, like they're showing up a lot. And like, for example, I'm playing in some pretty high level TTS things and they're showing up a lot. People are like, this is a serious army. Like, and no one was taking Iron Jaws seriously before that. It's an army that can show up at these really high level events now where it previously couldn't. So the win rate went down, but the actual quality of the army raised. It's kind of one of those weird things. And the popularity, I think, jumped.
It did. It went from 3.3 to 4.8. Maybe quickly, I'll get your thoughts on a couple of other changes that happened in Iron Jaws. Is we saw the makeup shift a little bit, right? Where we saw Gore Grunters and the Mega Boss or Maw Crusher start dropping out of lists. But what started being added to list was Zogrot, the Anvil Smasher. We saw Weird Brute Wreckers, Scourge of Gairan version, as well as the Brute Ragers coming in.
And number one,
yeah,
Brutes.
Oh yeah, of course, and Brutes.
Yeah, so what you're seeing there is you're seeing a lot of utility for infantry builds. The Weird Brute Wreckers of Scourge of Gairan do so much more for infantry than they do for monsters because companion. You're seeing a lot of support for those infantry builds show up in builds when they previously were not. Like I was one of the very few people who was trying to compete with infantry in Iron Jaws. So you're seeing a much more balanced spread of units. People are still bringing all the other ones, but it's like really pretty darn evenly spread across the board. Ragers are seeing more play, not because Ragers got buffed, but because the stuff that Ragers are really good with contextually got better. So like the army feels great right now. If you're an Iron Jaws player, it's a really good spot to be in. Like every single game, you feel like you're playing and you get to pick, like you're in the game and it's a fight to see who wins. And it's never like decided until the very last turn. Like it's really fun. It's a really good spot. They are right where I'd want them to be. I'm surprised they're not exactly 50, but I don't think they're in a bad spot despite the win rate.
Well, the other side of the book, I wish I could say the same thing.
Yeah.
Cruel boys, it has certainly been cruel to you. So seeing the win rate dropping and popularity rised. I'm not going to count it like it went from popularity went from 1.5 to 1.6. So somebody fell over but like the win rate went from 47.8 to 44.3. So very, very low. Like it's very out of the bands. Like that, if I was Games Workshop, I'd be hitting the panic button and either June or Scourge of Gairan 2.0 I'd be looking at serious fixes for Cruel Boys, because at 44.3, knowing they've already got a battle tome where Seraphon still have a battle tome to come, like what they've got till 5th edition, if not 6th edition. Like who knows what the new battle tome cycle is going to be. But
Yeah,
like if you look at what they've got, and also like what's been added to the list is you can see the Killer Bosch on Great Gnashtooth being a soggy war scroll now entering the top unit picks that are only going to be around for 3 months or less.
Swamport Bullies is a SOG battle scroll formation. Battle formation. It's the only one sees play really. Trophy Finka has seen a little bit of an uptick, which I'm happy to see, but it's pretty rough. Like to get nothing but buffs in your battle scroll and have your win rate drop in a noticeable way is telling. And I think it's just like the army can't compete with the new books very well. It doesn't have a lot of good tools. The war scrolls are like rough. Most of the sub factions are really, really in a poor spot. It's and the only way to play them most of the time is that Swamport Bully style, which is not the way that people want to play Cruel Boys. It's not a fun way to play Cruel Boys. It doesn't feel sneaky, tricksy, explosive, like risky. It's just like a stat check, and you're losing the stat check because you're not strong enough. So it's like it's a really the opposite of Iron Jaws. It's a really not great time to be playing Cruel Boys. I played Cruel Boys almost exclusively for like a year and a half, 2 years, and I am not touching them right now. It sucks because like I love the army, but Trophy Finga is real in my opinion, and is a hope, and is showing signs of breathing some life into it. Some people I know have been having some success with it, so it could be that the Trophy Finga list start carrying the faction a little bit back up in the next month or two. So fingers crossed there is a light there. I don't know if it'll be the case. There's such a small sample size. 28 games is not enough. But with some more games, we might see some positive movement there.
I wonder how much of this is also getting the same punishment as Skaven with the obscuring terrain. And Cruel Boys have been known for their Bolt Boy builds.
Yeah.
And yes, there was a moment in the sun where Gut Rippers with their mortal spam was like leading the charge. But given that neutering of Bolt Boys and then the teleport stuff has made it really hard to do, it does feel like you're punching with one, fighting with one hand at this point with Cruel Boys. So I think some of it's,
and like also there's this other aspect of like oftentimes you're kind of a chip damage army in many ways, like poke here, and then finish them off with something. And there's a whole bunch of healing in this GHB. So they've been kind of in a bad spot because of that. So it could be contextually that if this GHB rotates and it's not the same, then we could see some positive movement for this army, where the doors kind of open up and suddenly you can play more units. So that could be the case. It's a great point.
I don't think it's the fix though. Like if we move this faction into the new GBH, let's say the new GBH was like more like the last one, which was like no seasonal rules. Like it was pretty vanilla. I think this win rate goes up to 46, 47.
Yeah.
I don't think it spikes much higher. Like it definitely does need a little bit more help, but I think the obscuring does put pressure on them that they're feeling.
I'll tell you what I would change. It's that keyword locking that all the rules are under. Like so many of their abilities like only affect Gut Rippers.
Yeah.
And there's more war scrolls in the book than Gut Rippers, right? So it's like if they could remove some of those keyword locks so that their buffs can affect more than one unit, I think you'd see a lot more life breathed in this army. Because it has cool stuff.
So. Yeah. And you started seeing that again. Even my daughter's a Kane, right? Like I'm no longer Medusa built, flocked, and like there's so much more flexibility now. So that's a really good point. How on earth this faction got point discounts with a good win rate? It was already, so last month it was 52.9. Now it's 55.7. The popularity has increased from 2.7 to 3.2. And the fact that some of the more popular units were the ones that got discounts.
Yeah, we were both laughing out loud when we saw this. We're like, are you kidding? Like this army is so strong. And no surprises here. It's been crushing. It's like look at that 4 wins.
I was about to say that's a wild, like, you normally
That's
have like a bell curve.
crazy.
This is like a roller coaster. Like you
Yeah.
go from like 1, probably Beastcore Raider people, to 2, probably mostly Beastcore Raider people. Then like you average 3 and 2 if you're running like gluttons and things, and then you like 4s and 5s. Like what the F?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you're more likely to get 4 wins than 3. That is crazy to me. Like, and we kind of expected, like, we both saw us, were like, oh, this is gonna be rough. Like, because ogres will just come in, they'll just table you, they'll just take you off the table, and there's not a lot you can do when they're that efficient. It's a great time to be an ogre player, I'll say that. And they are really fun to play as, and in a way fun to play against. It does kind of suck to get steamrolled, but there's exciting moments, and there's a lot of like exciting dice rolls happening, and like, did they land the charge, so I don't think there's like, the battle formations are decently well spread. That's something, but like, and there's a lot of units seeing play. They're like, the internal balance is pretty okay, but the Beastclaw Raiders do need help, and the infantry did not need any help.
I look at some of the key units there, and like I see things like Mournfang Pack sneaking in, and I wonder, is it because most like ogre players are just running like Iron Guts, Lead Belcher, like not even Lead Belchers, like Iron Guts, Gluttons, like Iron Blaster, and certain builds, like, and these are just creeping in? Because I haven't seen Mournfang Pack hit the table. I haven't. Like yes, you might take a token Frostlord on Stonehorn, but I'm not seeing much more of that. I mean, obviously
I
the
think the
gorgeous are pretty
Mournfangs is
alright.
more of like a token Mournfang, because they have like the points to buy one unit, and they're not really sure, they can't really afford anything else that's useful. A single Frostlord has always been good. You see an infantry build. It's a great piece to have in your army. You don't really see BCR builds right now, but my kitten is trying to stand on my hand. So,
Sorry.
yeah, they're like, the BCR stuff is not doing great. I don't think it's terrible, but it's
No.
nowhere near as good as the infantry builds. But the infantry builds are dominant,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
incredibly powerful. I think like the 55.7 is really high. But like, you could kind of like, as a just like kind of casual player, show up and reliably like 3-2 with this army right now. It's really good.
Or as you've seen, you can casually go 3-2, if not 4-1.
Yeah,
So
4-1. Yeah, 4-1. Like, just go up and just like, anyway. So anyway, I'm rolling dice, and you're dead.
yes, people listening, I know the irony of me playing Doc. Yes, like it's
Yeah.
not lost on me. I'm not complaining. I'm surprised they got points discounts, but hey, look, final
You know
hoorah.
what? To be
Who
honest, we
knows?
should probably buff Doc on the next Battlescroll. Just lower all their
People,
points by 20.
surely you got a battle tome coming. Like who knows when? Like it's been speculated for a while. Hopefully you're soon, because you guys actually deserve new sculpts. Like
For
you
real.
deserve new sculpts. Suns are just doing Suns things. Like you're doing all right. Like
The win rate's pretty solid. But it's also not, right? As you know, you play with Suns. You know what these numbers mean. So that win distribution, what do you think about that?
this is the thing, right? Is that Suns doesn't play that well into the battle tactic options this season.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, you can play into it, and it's not that it's very crippling, but it really does force you into a particular dominant build, as you can see here. Intercept, recover, restless energies, like, just dominates the battle tactics selection. And for you to do other things, it means you've got to deviate from Suns, and that's where you start seeing regiments of renown, whether it's the Gitz, you see the Piggies were popular for a while, Cruel Boys, other types of builds. They've really started coming in to make up the gap that you can't fill in Suns.
Yeah.
Look, long story, or you just run lots of like man crushers and mob, which most people don't want to do. So look,
Yeah.
Suns are doing Suns things, 51%. They're popular because people want to run their big giants. They'll stand on circles and smash. So they're still in a good spot, but they are not breaking through to 4 wins and 5 wins, as we can see here.
I actually almost think they're where they need to be. It's kind of a hot take. But it's an army that, like, when it's really good, is kind of bad for the game. And they're doing solidly. I wish that there was a little bit more flexibility in battle tactics, and I wish they could get a little bit more 4-1s and occasional 5-0s. But right around 50%, like, they're pretty popular. They do attract very specifically a lot of people who are entering a tournament in a very casual way, because they're 4 models.
Or because the war glamour people want to take you out drinking after hours, and you get back to your hotel at 3 a.m.
Exactly. We're gonna go out partying, so you better have 4 models in the morning because you're
not speaking from experience. No experience there.
So, like, that's a thing, and, like, that's kind of, they fill that niche. And I don't think they're in, like, a terrible spot. Like, they're actually in a really good spot. Yeah, it's hard to go 4-1 or 5-0, but it's not hard to have a good tournament.
That's the worrying part for me, is the drop from 3-2 to 4-1.
Yeah.
Like, if there was a healthier 4-1s, I think I'm okay. I agree with you. But it's just it's a sharp decline. And it makes me wonder, like, where are the 1 and 4s and 2 and 3s really struggling? And I think 9 times out of 10, it's the battle tactics, where they can stand on circles, but they're just being beaten on battle tactics, especially when you start losing a Gargan or 2, especially if you are running like a heavy mega Gargan build. You start losing, and even like the I've seen this many people, like, the power of Gargants comes from the man crushers. Man crushers score your battle tactics. They give you the screens, they give you the board control. And if you start losing them, that's when your game drops dramatically. Like, they are the number one things I protect. And it does make me wonder. It's just a seasonal thing for them.
I think it's a seasonal thing, and, like, unfortunately, I don't see any fix for it right now in this season. The way it lines up, it just doesn't. And, like, you don't take good advantage of, like, the benefits of this season. So there's not a lot of tools to, like, win a losing game as Sons of Behemoth right now, which it is what it is. Like, if you want to win a tournament, do not bring Sons. If you want to do okay at a tournament and have a good time and be relaxed and mostly hang out, but also, like, win several games, Sons of Behemoth isn't a good spot. But you're not going to win a tournament with them. Like, it's just not going to happen
without deviating from, like, pure Sons. And I think we've seen some good piggies, and we've seen Gobblepalooza and friends and some things, but it's hard to be pure. All right, we're back from a toilet break, and I put a brisket on in the slow cooker. Well, my oven. I literally have a Tennessee. Yeah, I've got a Tennessee brisket ready to go. About to make some mac and cheese for dinner in a couple of hours, and we're back to talk about the deliciousness that is Order.
Order.
What a great segue. So, getting into Cities of Sigmar. Look, this is really like a. Let's not even bother talking about it.
Honestly,
mostly because
the new book's just about to come out. Like, it doesn't matter,
it's going to come out in the next month or 2, right? I mean, you got to assume it's coming soon, right? Like, they just dropped the Cogfort article on us. It's only one article. We have the Cogfort article, and we have the City of Ash that we're still waiting for the city's rules. So I'm assuming the rules aren't out because they're tied to the Battle Tome. And I'd like to assume that they're not going to make us wait till June, July to see those rules. They want to giving us soon. So let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hopefully it's soon.
Wait and see on this one, honestly. Like, the stats are not really. It just doesn't matter right now. Like, it's for sure coming out soon. I don't know when, but soon.
Yeah. Look, let's be honest. And because of, like, if you look at all of the new battle tomes in the last, say, 3 months, they've all fundamentally changed. The battle formations, the tactics, the traits, everything has changed. So, like, nothing here. Like, yes, the Iron Wheel Guild has been popular. People love the cannons. Yes, there's been changes here, but who knows what war scrolls still exist? Are we still going to have the dwarves and the elves? Are we going to lose are we going to lose the steam tank and some of the empire things? Are we going to, what do these things do? How many points do they cost? Can I reinforce, like, grenadiers and things like that. There's so many questions here. So maybe what I'll ask you is, without seeing the rules, without knowing the points, this time next month, if cities drops, what do you think we'll see an increase? Do you think we're going to see it rank into the top 5?
I think it'll jump probably decently. My guess from the way that cities is as an army is that where we'll really see a big win rate increase is when we're not in a anti-shooting GHB. Like, I don't know what the next GHB is going to entail with this, but like, or what the map's going to be like, what terrain's going to be like. But like this one, in all my time playing Warhammer, this is the most anti-shooting segment of the game we've been in. And Cities is fundamentally a shooting army. Like, it has a lot of melee, but it's like a shooting with melee support. So contextually, that's going to go up. I have no idea what the book's going to have, but given all these other books coming before it, like, it's probably going to be a really, really cool book and probably quite strong. So I would expect it to at least be 50%, and then maybe get stronger with a GHB rotation. Even just neutral rules like would buff them significantly. So I'm expecting a big jump coming up in the next month or two.
I'm going to say that there's going to be basically no change. And I think you're not going to see anything for 3 months. Because if you think about it, you've got all of these new models. That takes time to build, times to paint, and all GTs want painted models. So
Yeah,
like Old Town, even in August, right? Unless someone, like, assuming that these models drop by, let's say they're on the shelf by start of July, right? Hypothetically, that gives me 2 months to build all the new things, assuming that I secured the City of Ash, right? So I think it's, and like, unless you're like just slap chopping or contrast painting, I think it's going to take a while for this stuff to hit the table properly.
I agree with that. That makes sense. Totally.
Sure, you're going to get some results, but I think you're not going to truly see City's power until around August, September, when cog forts are built, you know, units are on the table, people have worked out the system. I
Actually, kind of
let's see
looking
how it goes.
backwards a little bit over some of these slides, like OBR is kind of like that too.
Yes.
Some people don't have their triaxes and their reapers and all these other units yet. Some people don't have the units that we're not seeing play before painted up yet, and they're not really, really good. They are still not seeing play in the way they should because they don't have them ready yet. So you might see some spikes and changes in armies with that production meta, as some people refer to it. So that's a great point. But I do think we'll see a bump up, but I think it'll take a little bit. I think it'll be one of those like, and then sliding up over time. Hopefully, that's my hope for that.
How many people have an Arcane the Black built and painted? I reckon majority of OBR people don't have an Arcane the Black. Like, what I do have, what I do have is a painted Daughters of Cain army, and also painting more. Look, let's be honest, it's a brand new book. It's certainly probably stronger of the two, but let's make no mistake here. Sylvaneth, who also came out at the same time, have the same amount of 5-0s. I just think that Sylvaneth is a little bit harder to work out because it fundamentally changed with the Strike and Fade. So we'll get to Sylvaneth when we get to Sylvaneth. But Daughters of Cain has always been on the table. Put some buffs, go forth. Marathi's back. Snakes are back. There's like, and you can see it here.
I think it's a really good opportunity for a cool discussion here because I don't play Doc, but I have opinions from an outside perspective. You do play Doc and I have inside perspective. So how we both, obviously they're a little bit on the strong end and probably some tone down, but I'm really curious to see what you think is a little bit too good and maybe what is fine versus what I maybe think about it. So what in your opinion is like doing a little too well right now?
So this is where I think the Blood Sisters, the melee focus snakes, are like, if you look at it, right, they are 140 points for 3 health. They all gained a health. They were 2 health in the old book. They're now 3 health. 3 health for 140, moves 8, crit mortals. They're quite a strong unit. So if I was like, and this is where like my list is a hybrid. I've got I've got blood hags. I've got witch elves. I've got a whole mixture of things where I think what I'm seeing a lot of is Morathi, uh, snake cauldron, like whether it's soggy or non-soggy, because you've got your manifestation. By the way, I think that's overcosted. The blood rack shrine, because you're paying for a manifestation in it. I do think the elf side is a little bit too expensive. Like 140 for the blood hags, and you're paying for the ability of getting 2 blood rights. I think witch elves and Sisters of Slaughter, I think, are a little too expensive. And when I say expensive, I'm talking like 10 points. Like I'm not talking wholesale huge changes. I do think they're a little overpriced, but I also
Yeah.
think that the snakes might be underpriced.
Okay, I can totally see
And
that.
then obviously, and then there's the whole Morathi thing as
The
well. And
Morathi thing, which I think
Morathi's
she's
interesting.
interesting. I think there's a lot of discussion to be had about her. I think the one thing we probably agree with is she shouldn't be able to move like 3 times in the same turn.
Well, we haven't seen GW's official ruling yet on
Yeah.
this, right? We have seen the world's ruling on how the passive ability plays out. We haven't seen GW's ruling just yet. So I want to hold my comment on Morathi until GW makes the official rule. But when you can start moving 3 times with a passive ability and things like that, like I think we're moving into cooked territory, and I don't want to pay for the price.
I think like if she moves 3 times, she's broken. If she doesn't, I think she's actually in a good spot. She's a lot of points. She's super high risk. The problem is that like right now, without an official ruling on it, people are kind of abusing it. And it's a little bit of a problem, but I think that might get fixed with simple clarification on what they meant by it.
I play conservative, by the way. I always play conservative. So like, because like the last thing I want to do is get all these reps in. And this is why I'm even playing my Old Town list now, because yes, I could run 2 blocks of Reinforced Blood Sisters, and I know they're really strong, but my list is 2K on the nose right now, and I can't afford a 10-point increase. The minute it goes up 10 points, I'm screwed, and I'm back to day one. And I'd rather just practice with things that I think that minor tweaks here or there, I'll still be able to run the core of my army.
So what's really interesting, from what you were saying earlier versus my experience is like I think in different countries and different areas, there's like totally different metas. So the number one thing, other than Morathi, in my meta and the competitive meta that I've been playing, and also TTS tournaments I'm in and stuff like that, has been Blood Hags. They've been seeing tons and tons of play, but I don't think they're broken. Like I think they're just really, really good. I don't think they need any changes. I think they're actually perfect. Blood Snakes are a little bit efficient, but they need a few points tweaks. The unit that I feel is actually a problem, the Canary are too cheap.
That's
they're
interesting,
like
because I think they're not cheap enough. Like I like the old 90-point ones. They're
so
apparently paying 100.
the metas for different like people and the different tournaments you go to and different expectations. So like at like a world's level playing style, Canary are insane. Like the ability to like counter shoot and move 2d6, and when you're someone who's like got a complete mastery of board movement and know where you're going, like the ceiling for that unit is like insane, like incredible for 100 points. When you look at other armies who have similar units and they just don't function like that.
But they are once per army. I want to caveat that they are once per army, which I think does put a ceiling on them.
Yeah, it does. Like I just think that they're a little bit too efficient, and the little I agree with you. The melee snakes are a little bit too efficient. But I think we both have a pretty moderate opinion on them. Like their win rate's really high. I think a lot of people would knee jerk and completely destroy them. And I don't agree with that. Like I actually don't think the problems with Doc partially is the lack of clarification on Morathi.
Yes.
And just some of the stuff is a little bit efficient, but if people know that you can only do one movement with Morathi, I think the win rate drops just from that to a much more reasonable spot. And right now it's just a new book, needs some clarification. And people need to learn how to play against it, and a couple things need some small tweaks, but it's not as egregious as it looks like it is, in my opinion.
The one thing to add to all of this is a good player, once you start learning about how to Doc plays, I mentioned that there are very limited ways that you can generate your blood right points in order to achieve the blessings for Morathi. So once I start generating them outside of the blood hags, for example, if I have a unit die near a place of power, if I have an objective that I control, then the unit dies. Then there's these little sequence, right? And some of them are based on the anointed. And if you like, there's like 7 options. And when you have Morathi, you start to lose a couple of them being efficient, and why people take the snake with the "you got to fight me" type of artifact or hero trait.
Yeah.
If you can draw the fights away from objectives and or places of power, you really limit the blessings, which then limits the Morathi. And then by the time Morathi comes back, it's turn 4, turn 5. When you
Yeah.
start feeding me and I generate those points really quickly, turn 1, turn 2, and I start getting like really powered up, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, +3 to move, like all of this stuff by turn 3, then I can be super aggro with Morathi, knowing this shit comes back in turn 4 and then rinse and repeat.
That's exactly what I made the mistake of doing in my first 2 games. So I alluded this earlier, but like Doc is a hard army to play, but it's a harder army to play against. You have to, like, if you don't understand how it works, you will lose. Like, for sure. Like, it's one of those armies where like you knowing versus not knowing is like night and day. Because once I realized, like, maybe I don't have to kill that screen that's sitting next to the place of power on objective. You like, just leave it alone. Like, it's fine. Play a little slower, play a little more cautious. Don't fight really turn 1 and 2. Like, when you don't play into their game plan, and their game plan takes advantage of your like immediate instincts. When you learn, like, okay, I have to play this different, which a lot of these new books are like this, which is really cool. You have to learn how to play a totally different game. And when you do that, Doc still feels strong. It still feels really good. And maybe some things need a few points, tweaks, or a few adjustments. But like, once you understand what's going on, I do expect their win rate to kind of drop. It's currently, I think it's in the past couple weeks a little bit higher than this number, but like, I think it will go back down to closer to this, which is like 59 is like a problem, but like mid 60s is like really, really bad. I think there'd be closer to like that 58 area. I need a few little taps to get back into a reasonable range. But like, there's a lot of counterplay to be had against them. They're not like an unbeatable army.
This time next month, we'll have a full rolling 60 days of the new book, where right now this number is a combination of index and battle tome. So once that rolls off, it'll be interesting to see where the true win rate is. Also, it'll be interesting to see where, like, what people have learned. And you're right, like when we talk Canary, for example, and I feel like we're on Doc for too long, but like we'll move along in a sec. And like you can obviously have a final comment as well. But like when I'm using my Canary, for example, like I'm often using them to die next to the place of power, holding an objective, hopefully getting both an objective and a place of power, triggering those blood rights to get me 1 or 2 passive abilities on Morathi, then like getting the snowball effect. But if you start ignoring those Canary, for example, or drawing me from fights away from places of power or objectives, I get zip.
Yeah.
And I think once people start like picking those little things up and going, oh, I don't have to fight them, or I won't shoot at them and they won't die near the thing, then you start taking my power away.
100%. There's a lot of counterplay to be had on the table. It's not list building counterplay, because list building counterplay is like sometimes you just can't do it. It's like on the table counterplay, so anybody can do it, and there's a lot of it there. One final comment: clearly, Witchbrew needs to cost some points. Just gonna say that right now. Like, that's fairly. I don't think that's up for debate. Like, well, that needs to cost some points, but yeah, the army's a problem. It needs some small nerfs. It needs some clarifications. But it's not as bad as it looks. And it's pretty easy to fix the army, and the army's fun and interactive.
And when you Witchbrew is a 3-up, but when you get the 3-up on the reinforced blood sisters and they're good ethereal, that's why snakes are really efficient. One, they're already efficient with health. 2, when you start adding that, and then you add crystal touch and all that stuff, I am expecting the points to go up between now and GBH.
for sure. Yeah, it's got to go up. But anyway,
I feel it's hard.
Fire
It's
Slayers.
what this
the
popularity.
hot boys over here, dude. They're not so hot. Like, look at that popularity rating.
It's not even 1%.
It's not even 1%. Like, it's so bad, and like, there's so many reasons for that, right? Like Fire Slayers, all their models look the same, and they need some more models. It's like their newest stuff that came out brought some new life into the faction, but like, we all know that the thing where like, which model is that? I don't even know, and their win rate's not good. They're not in a good spot, and I don't see this changing without a new book, and hopefully a few new models that are like different looking.
Yeah, look, like, I mean, if the rumors are true, we're going to get a whole new look of like dwarves under Grumdy and things like that. But you're right, Fireslayer's got a massive boost through the Scourge of Gairan, Soggy Runesun. You've got your Scales of Ultrix. You've got like all of these things that like the Droth Helm brought a whole bunch of new life.
Yeah,
if those Sog rules don't continue, then when we go back to naked baby dwarves, then I wonder what this is going to look like.
Rough. But I have like actually something more interesting to say than just about this. Like, so part of the problem with the way Fire Slayers are right now is that when they're good, it's too good. So the soggy runesmiths and stuff on Maggotkin, at first before they nerfed them, it was one of those things where if you weren't the type of army that could beat it, you could not beat it. Like, it was insane. But they nerfed it just enough, you lose one unit and the army does not function. And that's kind of the problem they're sitting on right now. They're very feast and famine. And they're really like, you can't really balance them. It reminds me of like old Idoneth with that strikes first rule, where like it was so hard to balance that army because the good turn was so good and the bad turns were so bad that it was like a nightmare to balance them. And Fire Slayers is currently suffering from that, and it's really hard to fix. And I unfortunately do not have any good recommendations for them other than they need a book. They need to have some fundamental reworks with the way the rules work now. I need some new models. I wouldn't recommend playing them right now. Just wait, because I think they will get some new stuff. So
I wouldn't be as drastic. I would say like give your final tour to your Magmadroth build, and like they were fun and like it's been fun while it's lasted. They suffer the same fate as your KO and Suns, where when Suns are really good, everyone complains. When KO really good, everyone complains. When
Fire
they're
Slayers,
not, that's what I'm saying. Like Fire Slayers, KO, Suns. There's a few of them where like when they're good, they're cooking. But then when they're not cooking, they can be often quite low. Hopefully maybe hopefully take the final Fire Slayers tour with your Magmadroths and that.
Actually, in a positive note on that, like agreeing with you with that point, I play a lot of teams tournaments. I think teams tournaments are the best way to enjoy Warhammer. And Fire Slayers do have a place in team tournaments. They're very polarized in their matchups. Like shooting armies just tear them apart, but they're actually quite a good army into melee armies. If you're playing team tournaments, Fire Slayers are really fun and really interesting in those, and create a lot of cool stuff with that. So if you're playing team tournaments and you like Fire Slayers, it's a great time to play them.
I think some of the battle tactics as well this season, again, very similar to Suns, is they don't have a lot of speed. They don't have a lot of teleporting. They don't want to retreat some of their units to then charge in other units. Like there's some things that are really hamstringing them with their battle tactics. So I think some of this is seasonal.
Like they want to play a tuned 1 and they don't want to play a tuned 2. If that makes sense. Like they're
so
stuck in a lot of, and like Master the Paths, like, oh man, they can kill a hero. Can they get Master Paths Part 2? You know, like they have a lot of problems like that. They're a little awkwardly spaced. So
I think you take them out. We didn't have these problems last season, right? Like they were never like 60% win rate, but they weren't as bad. I think take them out of this season, and that win rate goes 45-46. Give them a bit of love, especially some soggy war scrolls, maybe to the infantry, and we start seeing them getting closer to 50.
Yeah, I agree.
Fingers crossed. This on the other hand, let's put the battle tome back in the oven and start cooking because I think this wasn't quite ready. Let me call out some stats and I'm going to pass it over to you because you are a Deepkin man.
Yeah.
So your win rate has gone down from 47.9 to 45.1, and their popularity has also gone down from 2.8 to 1.7. The units that are in, and now mind you, Deepkin doesn't have the deepest roster in the game, and their unit actual selections haven't really changed. There's been some reordering of Methalia and the Ishlan Guard moving up a little bit in their selection, but otherwise, like your battle tactics remain same, your formations stay the same, heroic traits, artifacts, like basically everything looks like it's the same, and IDK is cooling off.
It is. So I have a lot of thoughts on this. So the Thralls builds, unfortunately, there's not really any fixing them unless you completely work all the Thralls. But actually, the Thralls, just in general, need a new War Scroll. Like the Saki Thralls, cool idea, didn't quite work. But what we're seeing here is like a really unfortunate situation because basically Aether Sea Predators is an incredible, insanely powerful sub-faction that is not fun for either player and has made their win rate too high for them to buff substantially other aspects of the army. And so you're sitting with this army that doesn't really have a fun gameplay experience for either player. And then they recently buffed the Morsar and some of the more offensive options. Not quite enough. So what you're seeing is people are no longer playing the Aether Sea because they were desperate to jump off the sharks because it's such a not fun way to play the game. You just basically ignore your opponent ignores you. Either it's good enough or it's not, and you end up winning by 2 points or losing by 2 points, and no one really played a game. Now people are playing Achillean Beastmasters, which is way more fun. And unfortunately, it's not quite good enough, but it's good enough to entice you to jump over to it. So like Volturnus drops 20 points, but he was 230. He went to 210. He should probably be 190. Island of Storm, similar. He started at 320, went to 300. Now he's 280. He should probably be 270, 260. The Turtle dropped a little bit. All these units dropped a little bit, and now it's like, oh, I can play Beastmasters, and it's kind of true.
I'd also like to say at this point that the same thing I said about Vermin Lords, I'd love to say about the Eidolons is I want them at 400 points, but make them worth 400 points. Like give me a delicious centerpiece.
It's crazy because like the Eidolons do have good rules. The problem is mostly honestly that like a lot of the army is overcosted. Island Sea is overcosted. It's a great war scroll, but it needs to drop like 20 points. It's actually pretty close though. They're close now. The 45% win rate, I think, is a little bit actually looks worse than it is. The army is more fun to play now. And it is in some ways healthier. The problem is like it's one of those armies that, like when you're playing this like really fragile army that's fast moving that has to like delete one target at a time. When it doesn't get there, you just lose immediately. And so you're seeing these really sharp fall off on win rate, like because it's just not quite like they're just short of what they need. And so I don't think it's actually as bad as it looks. I was coming with a really negative like start on this, but actually I think Idoneth is really close to being in a decent spot. The problem is that like you want to run a couple sharks in these eels lists, but sharks are 170 and really are like 130, 140 point unit, but they've had to be so expensive because of the shark sub-faction. And so you can't run these supporting units, you can't run these utility units because they're overcosted due to some rules that like interacted in a weird way. So the army actually isn't as bad as it looks. It's not a great spot. But at least it's playing a game that's engaging right now. It's losing that game, but it's playing that game. So it's actually kind of looking all right, and it's only a few points short of making it. That's my actual like take on it.
I'm going to add a couple of extra things. So, but not add, like, first off, thank you for sharing your insights. I think there's more to play with IDK, and I think the Battle Tome, there's a lot that can be done to the Battle Tome. A few things I will call out. One, first and foremost, just how high of a spike that 2 wins are, and I'd be interested to actually drill down to see if that's a five game GT. Where do those 2 wins happen? Are they happening in game 1, game 4, and game 5? Like, do I lose a bunch of games so I'm submarining and then I win a couple in the back end? Am I winning my first 2 games and then as strength of schedule starts coming in, I'm just not catching up with the big boys and then I drop my last 3? The other thing I wanted to call out is I had a quick look to see who that number 1 win was. Like, there's 1 win in the last 60 days. Technically, there was 2. There was 1 at Maastricht, but that was 5 wins out of an 8-game tournament, so I'm not counting that.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah. The one 5-0 was John Anderson at a 22 player tournament, I think in Texas. The list was Volturnus, Reinforced Morsar Guard, Reinforced Morsar Guard, Reinforced Morsar Guard, Morsar Guard, Achillean King, Morsar Guard, Morsar Guard, Morsar Guard.
Yes, I know John
That's the
Anderson
list.
in person as well, and I played against him and stuff like that. He is a good player, but also it's a 22-person game event, and he definitely, like, he also one time got a 5-0 with a similar size event with 5 mock rushes in Iron Jaws, and like, it doesn't necessarily mean that the army was good. He's a good player, and also he's very good at, like, surprise dunking on people who aren't who don't know how to play against that specific army. Like, he takes a weird thing to dunk on people. Like, I'm one of those players too, like, where I'll like show up with like a weird army, and just because I wouldn't go with this because no one had played against it, and I'm like, yeah, got you once. The second time I fought you, you'd probably win. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. So, like, grain of salt with that 5-0.
I think more what I wanted to call out there is the fact that it was just spamming Morsar Guard rather than Thralls and Reavers and Turtles and Eidolon and things like that. So
yeah,
I think
it's a gimmick. Only one war school, right? And I didn't mean I in no way disparaging John Anderson. Like, he's a great guy.
no.
What I'm saying is, like, he played a super gimmick list because that's what's available to the army. And I so badly want to play my Thralls. I have 60 painted. I have like little hand painted clouds on all of their robes. Like, I can't put them on table. They just don't work, and I don't know how to fix it. So it's a sad state.
And that was my point. It was less about the 22 player tournament. It was less about the player. It was more just that was a list that was being spamming of one particular unit. And maybe that's a reflection on where some of the other war scrolls aren't just either holding up either their own war scroll strength and or the points value. So I think there's something that needs to be relooked at going into June, July.
Part of my response also about the more was because people have been calling for Morsar Gardener of seeing that they won something. And I'm like, I don't think that's the issue. Like, Morsar Gardener, fine. Like,
it's like when Varangard dominated. It's like, it's not Varangard's fault. It's that, like, other things just aren't at the level, and you're forcing a hand of Chosen.
I have one good unit.
Varangard.
Like, it's the only thing I have. Like,
Boingrot Bounders. Like, of course, that's where I get my damage out. Like, now I've got no Boingrot Bounders, or they're not doing as much damage or things. Then, like, there's no one else to step in its place. So, KO.
Similar to that, right? But way stronger.
I mean, and look, their win percentage is much higher. They've actually increased. They've gone from 50.5 to 51.3. Their popularity has fallen a little bit. We have seen the Ironclad, while it was always on the list, it has ranking a little higher. Otherwise, the army has relatively changed outside of the leading battle tactic, going from Intercept the Recover and Master to Master and Restless. So otherwise, it's month on month, very similar.
I'm not super surprised where it didn't change that much. I'm not surprised it went up a little bit. They did get buffed. I didn't think they necessarily needed buffs. I think they're in a great spot right now. They're really good against the new armies, kind of. It's weird. It's a very coin flippy situation, but they have some good tools. I think they're in a great spot, and they probably will be for the next couple months. I am a little worried where they're going to show up when this particular GHB situation ends, because like if we have less obscuring, this army goes through the roof. Like, because right now they're tuned pretty high.
Yes.
I think they're like, when you play against them, it does feel like they're very, very strong. But there is really good tools to fight against them available on the maps, available in the GHB rules. So you have like really good tools against them, but they're in a very strong space. How do you feel about them?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on like they have been quite strong, and I've had a few games against them lately. Um, yeah, it's an interesting like because on one hand you are 100% correct around obscuring, but on the other hand they have the movement that most armies that have high war machines and shooting can't get around. Like they've got the
Yeah.
movement to be able to manipulate the board in a very different way. So I don't know if it's going to spike dramatically. I could see the numbers going up a little bit, 53, 54, but I don't think that, unlike say Helsmiths or cities, for example, I don't think obscuring is like neutering them completely.
They also don't take advantage of obscuring for themselves. So that is worth noting.
Yeah.
It's all fun.
Yeah. But they
Yeah.
do have really good armor saves, and because opponents aren't bringing as much shooting because of obscuring, you can't reach out and touch the boats as easily as you would have if you would be normally bringing your cannons, your catapults, your fusiliers. So maybe they're benefiting from that too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. It's a good idea. Make good idea, you know what I mean? Good point. Good observation. I think like they're overall they're in a good spot. They aren't oppressive. And maybe with things changing going forward, they might shift around, but they probably will end up similar area. Now that you bring up those points, I think about it like those they're gaining as much as they're losing from the GHB and the context of the meta. Like they're pretty good against these new armies, but these new armies are also pretty good against them in other ways. Like it kind of like counteracts and balances in this interesting way that leaves them around 50%. So it's a pretty good spot for KO to be in, because as we know, like KO is one of those armies that can quickly become like a problem. In one, either in a bad way or like too strong, and they're in a really nice spot. And
Yeah.
they do feel strong, but they don't feel oppressive or unbeatable. So like
They're a good gatekeeper army. I think that's where they should be, like, 3-2, 4-1, nice gatekeeper, not often winning the GTs.
yeah, they do have a lot of 5-0s, which is kind of
They do.
surprising.
They do. They do.
They do, but I sometimes I'm concerned about that. In this case, I actually am not. I think like they're one of those armies that often wins on small margins, and like sometimes you get 5-0s where every single game was like a 60-62. You know what I mean? Like, so like I'm not super worried about that because their win rate's good. Or it was, sorry, it's Lumineth. But anyway, go on.
Well, yeah, we moved to Lumineth because we will otherwise hit the 3-hour mark again.
Yeah.
So interestingly though, Lumineth has had 4 5-0s in the last 60 days, right? So what have I got? So Nick Tasson in Ludiverse went 5-0. No surprise, Nick being a former world champ.
Yeah.
Mark Palinski at Grand Torneo, Grand Clash. You had Jacob Perdon at False Alarm. You had Tristan Dari, I think it is, at AoS FF GT. I think, was there another one? Like Lumineth has come out of the gates and way more than Disciples of Tzeentch. Like they came out at the exact same time. Everyone at the time said Tzeentch was the stronger book of the two. Yet here we are, Lumineth is getting the GT wins where Tzeentch isn't.
I have a number of thoughts about that. So, number one, like, Tzeentch can be a little bit more matchup dependent. Like the bad matches for Tzeentch are pretty rough. And Lumineth is kind of like neutral. It's kind of similar win rate against every army sort of vibes. So really good players are going to perform more consistently at 5-0 versus the 4-1 on that. But like, I think really what it comes down to is Lumineth has one specific problem, and it shows up on that key unit, the Light of Eltharion.
Oh, yes.
Everything else about Lumineth is like more or less pretty close to balanced. And then every single list brings Light of Eltharion, and how well you use him defines whether you win or don't.
Yeah.
He's a unit that like breaks the game. He's way too good. Like, and everyone knows it. The rest of the army feels really fine to me. Like, it's really like there's a lot of counterplay, there's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of decisions for both players. It doesn't feel oppressive or undercosted necessarily. Maybe some tweaks up and down a little bit across the board, but nothing major. That one war scroll is just like breaking the game.
I reckon that one war scroll is a difference of the 3s going into 4s, like that tipping point from 3s to 4, and then the knock on from 4s to 5s. Now, obviously, when you're like playing at a very high level, people can work around those units, like, but it's probably sneaking a couple of extra wins. I will say what's really interesting as well, and I agree with you on that call out. I'd be curious to see if let's say they nerfed, or like you could remove Light of Eltharion from the data set. Like, what does this actually look like? Because it is skewing. You've seen the win rate increase by a basis point. It was 55.7, now it's 56.7. But more interesting to me, the popularity went from 5.3 to 7.3.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. People have a good time, clearly. Popularity,
and more people are joining the mix, and they're getting better results.
Yeah, so I think it is really carried by Light of Eltharion. I've been studying Lumineth pretty thoroughly. Recently I've been training my partner on how to compete in Warhammer with Lumineth, and I've been playing them and then teaching them how to play them and then playing against them and then trying various builds. Like I've been getting pretty deep diving on what's good and what's not. And my takeaway is like the army's got a pretty darn good balance point outside of Light of Eltharion. Like if you removed him, I think this army's at a 50%. I think it's like really, really well balanced. There's a couple war scrolls that maybe need to drop in points, and like one or two that need to go up a little bit, but like it's actually a really well balanced army. It's just they're carried by Light of Eltharion, and what Light of Eltharion does is, like you're saying, that 3 to 4 and 4 to 1. Same is true from 2 to 3, 1 to 2. Like these players are being carried by this one war scroll that gets them out of jail free. And I think if that gets changed a little bit, nerfed in some way, you'll start seeing this army more reflective of the rest of its nature, which is a very balanced, more like OBR is, where like the better player wins. 50% type army. Yeah. I'm not actually super worried about the book. It's one war scroll that I'm worried about. So
it's a slow burn. Like it's a slow burn. I played into it many times. Outside of Eltharion, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's not bad. It's not insane, but it's like it's pretty good. And you're like, that was a good army.
Yeah, it is very good. An army that I wish was good is Seraphon, and they don't have a battle tome. They've got a good popularity. That the people love their dinos, and they will keep running their dinos. But I will say their win rate did go from 39.7 to 41.8, so that's an improvement.
It's a jump. That's a jump.
That's a jump, but it's just an interesting one, and I don't have the answer for Seraphon.
Yeah, unfortunately, like they're one of those armies where like a lot of time I have ideas, but like anything you'd need to fix Seraphon would be so pervasive and thorough that like it'd be a new book, right? Like they just got outclassed as the game moves forward. And you can't really fix them with points. They have some cool stuff, but like their war scrolls are fundamentally lacking in many ways. There are some things you could do, but like the army just basically needs its book.
Yeah.
And the changes helped, and maybe you could do a few more small tweaks here and there, but like you don't really want to make like Stegadon's 140. You know what I mean? Like that's not really a good space either. Hopefully people are having some good time with these dinos, because like the monsters are like decent. The Seraphon is actually like okay. You're not going to 5-0. You're going to struggle to 4-1, but there's a lot of 1-4, 2-3, and 3-2 wins because they're playing a lot in that middle tables and they're playing a lot of close games. So the gameplay experience doesn't suck. And I think that matters more than win rate. It's frustrating in some ways your army's weak, but like they're not the worst army to play as. You have a lot of stuff you're doing. You're playing a 5-turn game most games. They're a little bit weak. They're probably a new book, but it's not like a nightmare scenario. It's just weak.
Yeah. I'm just reflecting on. I remember when the soggy Carnosaur War Scroll came out, and I had grand hopes and visions of like what this would do to the Carnosaur Agrodon Lancer build, supported by your Raptidons and things like that. And it hasn't quite manifested. And for those melee units, you still get your Croxigors in. But I just feel like there's something missing and I can't put my finger on it. There were times where, Seraphon really won through Croak with, the Saurus Guard and your Ashtalith Bearer, and there was this real power projection from your wizard castle, and then the rest like cleaned up the scraps. That seems to be lost.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a death by 1,000 cuts where like there's a million tiny awkwardnesses with them where they just kind of don't quite work. Like that's a cool rule, and then you play and like 3 other rules are like ever so slightly not quite good enough, and it just doesn't add up to what you're trying to do. But like there's cool rules there, they just don't quite get there. Is like the thing with them. But at least they have interesting stuff. Like that soggy Carnosaur is really interesting. It just doesn't win, but it does cool stuff in the meantime.
Yeah.
So like the gameplay experience is okay, but yeah, they're not in a great spot.
I will say as well, like the lethality of this season right now seems like it does seem this edition is
true.
way more lethal. And I think about like when Seraphon's been at its really biggest strengths, right? Other parts have been tied by the Bastiladon having a 2-up save, a ward, being able to like really tank up. But that 2-up save now you can chew through with the crit mortals and there's all these things now that like for 200 points, for example, for a Bastiladon, and I say Bastiladon, yeah, you could use like insert Croxigor here, insert Saurus Guard here, whatever, like Agrodon. The lethality here just chews through a lot of this, and I just
punishing
wonder.
people either, right? Like that's kind of the other thing is like because like Ard boys have a similar problem with Iron Jaws where it's like you're pretty tanky, but are you doing anything in the meantime? And and you aren't actually living like often enough, and like the nerfs to all defense and stuff like that really did harm those tanky defensive units.
Or even all that attack. Like I'm looking at Croxigor right now. They all like the maul hits on a 4, so you're likely using all out attack because it wounds on 2s and Ren 2 and anti-infantry. But then you've got an all out defense modifier there with the neg 1 for using all out attack. So
yeah.
like,
and a lot of these like kind of grindy armies here with like slaves, a couple other armies like that, some to a degree Stormcast as well, where like these bruiser armies really got punished by all defense and all attack nerfs because they're more like stat checky armies, and the stat check tools got nerfed, and so you're seeing them really struggle, and they were written in a space index wise where those abilities were better. And then when those got changed, they kind of permanently suffered in a way that's really hard to fix. Now, we might see, I doubt it kind of, but we might see some changes to that coming in with new JHBs. Like, it's possible. But the new books would probably just have to be written with that in mind. And I do like the overall balance of those abilities, but like certain armies really suffer, and Seraphon is one of them.
my closing comment, and then we'll move on, is that there's a difference with some of these armies. Like, and I've said this for a while, is that the all-out attack penalty is not equal. When you have a 4-up save, it is way more punishing than when you have a 3-up save.
Yeah.
And I saw it with like Iron Jaws with more Crushers versus Suns. You know, it changes the math significantly. Stormcast and Slays with their 3-ups, Crocs are going to have a 4. So it's like, do I have an immediate 5-up save before renders applied versus a 3 goes to 4? Usually I can handle that just a little bit better. I usually have a ward, things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing, and it's shown widespread consequences, I think. Across the armies that we see that are struggling are those who are using a lot of all attack, a lot of all defense.
Yeah, and like a Croxigor, for example, I definitely want to use all that attack.
Yeah.
Stormcast, you got such a consistent stat line that I don't need to worry. And if I look at this is a really good distribution curve. You know, it's a good mix. Yes, you'd obviously like a few more 5-0s, but is that your cat's going mad?
Yeah, they're attacking boxes.
Dad,
Sorry.
get off the internet. That's all right. We're gonna go 2 armies.
Yeah, we're almost done.
One being Stormcast. Stormcast is doing Stormcast things again. Never a true reflection because it is a new army, new player friendly army. So often you get a lot of people who are starting their first tournaments, and Stormcast is their thing. They're also got such a diverse roster that it can often be hard to find like what the right units are going to be, and there's a lot of testing and things.
But I think they're in a good spot, like right around 50%. They're probably slightly stronger than this represents. And the really good hands are significantly stronger, but they're a fairly well balanced army. I think the changes helped the diversity a little bit. I think they're in a great spot. Like there really isn't much I would change about Stormcast. I think they're performing well. There's a nice balance of units and archetypes. The dragons are doing decently. The infantry is doing decently. The cavalry is doing decently. Everything's doing solidly well. And they're perfect in my opinion. So
yeah. We've probably seen some of the dropping of like the Grand Hammers, Annihilators. It kind of seems to be dropping off a little bit, but you still see the number one of the number 1 units being the Questor Soul Sworn. I say the Vigilors obviously being number 1 because of the buff that they give through like shooting attack. Yeah, you take 1, that's enough. But the Questors went cowards.
Long strike crossbows, which didn't get buffed, but they're just in a good spot right now. I think that's more of the thing is like what's good in the meta as opposed to like I think everything in the book or most things in the book are quite viable. It's just like what's good right now, and like the new armies are pretty good against hammers as opposed to them being not good enough. It's one of those things.
And just to reinforce your point as well, like month on month, nothing really changed. You went from a win rate of 48.8 to 49.0. You saw a representation from like 8.6 to 7.9, but otherwise battle tactic remains the same. Master the Past, Restless Energy, battle formation, same heroic traits, artifacts, everything's the same. So
yeah,
they're in it. They're gonna coast this out.
All right, kitties. Jesus.
Cat's going mad. Well, Cat is going mad. That's all right. We got one final faction. Then you can play with the puss. We have the Silver. Yes, I know what I said. Sylvaneth. Sylvaneth, the final one, our other brand new faction. I think this is the sleeper while everyone's talking about Doc. Sylvaneth is doing just as well, if not better, just without the noise.
Yeah, Sylvaneth is incredibly good in the hands of a very good player. It will not carry you, but if you're a good player, there's so little counterplays. Like the opponent can't do anything. Like Doc, the win rate's really high, but there's a lot of counterplay for the opponent. Sylvaneth, I feel very much the opposite. Like if your Sylvaneth player knows what they're doing, the opponent does not get to do much, and they will win that game. It's really tough to fight against them, and like I think they're a sleeper army. I agree with you on that. Like they're really, really, really good.
And I don't say this as a Doc player trying to deflect, but what I will say is that Sylvaneth isn't as obvious as Doc. So while Doc has come out of the gates because Morathi and Snakes just go out and go burr, there's going to be some Sylvaneth that's going to take probably a month or two. I think is going to just slowly creep in, and then by the time of June, July, you'll have the build. You'll have the Kurnos or Belthanos or Lilariel, or you'll have the list. that right now, because of the changes to Strike and Fade, people are still trying to work out the exact list, and we've already started seeing with 2 lists so far come out the gates. We've seen where was it? Justin Laponte from Grand Clash, and then also 8-0. This is the one I want to call out. Maastricht. So Tomas went 8-0.
Yeah,
Like that's huge.
I do expect that we're going to see this army creep to like a 56, 57 area. Right now it's a 50.5. I think it's gonna creep up as people figure out how to really do these cool combos, nice interactions. They're really hard to stop. So I think it's gonna slowly creep up as the good players really like lock in on what they can do in this army. It's a really strong army. There is counterplay, but there's certain specific things that maybe need like a Fak or a Radek, because there's like not. It's some pretty weird stuff the army's doing. I'll say that.
Yeah. And I think we are hitting the mark. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Any
I'm tired a little bit. So
well, the cat's going mad.
Cat's going
Elias
crazy in my room.
Going mad.
I think overall, some closing statements from me. I think the meta is actually in a pretty darn good spot. The games are very interactive. Most armies, a couple armies are far outside the range, but it's really only like 2 or 3 on each side that are actually outside. The other like mass majority of armies are in a really good spot. And the games are very fun right now. So I would highly encourage people to get up and play, because right now is a good time to be playing.
Yeah, final tour on your SOG, because we don't know if the SOGs are going to stay. Maybe yours will stay. Maybe there's a whole new version of SOG. Maybe SOG was a one-time only thing. Who knows?
Yeah.
So
who knows?
Make the most of it if you enjoyed those SOGs. If your army isn't doing so well, make the most of it. Have fun in the last season. Do something weird and quirky, because know that there's a new GBH. Who knows? It could be magic orientated. It could be shooting orientated. Could be combat. Who knows? Like, and obviously that will change the conversation dramatically. And if anyone else wants to hear that Helsmiths chat, go check out War Glamour. I'll put the link down below. I'll link the channel. Go check out War Glamour. They're a lot of fun. I don't know if my video's gone up yet. I did an interview with Trish. I'm sure it'll come up pretty soon. I'm sure it's in the editing
last time
process.
I looked was a couple weeks ago, so I didn't see it yet, but I'll check it again.
I have a very interesting conversation with one of your co-hosts. But
yeah,
Elias, as always, go hang out with the cats, and I will see you next week.
So. Have a lovely night.
Yeah, you too. Bye. Bye. Stay. Don't drop yet. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AoS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a 1-1 on a spellcast.